35.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first, homeowners criminals are targeting your equity, so you need to check your home's title right now. Just use promo code BILL at HomeTitleLock.com to get a free title history report, plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 title monitoring, urgent alerts, and if fraud should happen, they will spend up to $1 million to fix it. So please go to HomeTitleLock.com, use promo code BILL today. On this Wednesday, predictably, the corrupt U.S. media put a negative spin on the Trump-Putin-Ukraine call on Monday. The anti-Trump line is same old, as the president did not get a ceasefire out of bad Vlad. Instead, more negotiations have been set. Here's some perspective the corporate press will never provide. Donald Trump genuinely wants the killing in Ukraine to stop. He understands that only Putin can make that a reality. No other option exists. So Mr. Trump is allowing the evil Russian far more latitude than he usually would. Essentially, the president is hoping. Now, I believe, but cannot state with absolute certainty, that Donald Trump knows the evil he is dealing with here. If you read my upcoming book, Confronting Evil, you will see that Vlad Putin is on the cover, and you will understand that he is a no remorse killer. Rehab is not going to happen. But if Vlad can get some Ukrainian territory and walk away with a favorable trade deal, it might be enough. Certainly, that's an appeasement. Is it worth it? Yes. If the West moves against Vlad, and it may have to, chaos will ensue. So there you go. Trump's critics have nothing as usual. Kind of boring at this point. Back after this. Take your health into your own hands with All Family Pharmacy. They have more than 200 medications, including ivermectin. Forget waiting rooms, pharmacy lines. Just order online and get delivery straight to your door. More than 100,000 Americans trust All Family Pharmacy, and you should too. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use promo code BILL10 for 10% off. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. For more news and honest analysis, please go to BillO'Reilly.com. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Any storm threat is east of St. Louis, so the rest of the evening will be dry and will cool off down to 55 for the overnight low. Partly cloudy, breezy, and a high of 72 for Wednesday, below the normal, which is 79. And it's cool again Thursday, a high of 68 under partly cloudy skies. But cool, quiet, calm weather, no storms, just what we need for Wednesday and Thursday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Having your first cup of coffee? Mike's on his third. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, this is going to be kind of fun because, you know, we've had the debate here with me being, frankly, in the minority of News Talk STL Nation. I'm not a fan of RFK Jr. He is a left-winger. You know, I think he's kind of an authoritarian, although, you know, I agree that we should be eating healthy foods that are actual real foods, and I'm really careful with my diet most of the time. So let's have some fun. Right around 7:35, you don't need to wait for government to clean up the food supply in order to have real healthy food for your family. So how can you do that? Well, like I said, 7:35, we're going to go into that and maybe have a little bit of the RFK debate just because I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. What can I say? Hey, good morning. I'm Mike Ferguson. Thanks for making News Talk STL part of your day. The fallout from what we're learning about the cover-up regarding Joe Biden's health, both cognitive and personal health is just getting bigger and bigger. I mean, it's funny because there are some in the media like Jake Tapper who now have something to sell and they can make a profit off selling their fellow leftists out. And he's doing just that. Tony Kinnett from the Daily Signal joined us on Tuesday's program with some observations on this because it's really not just about Joe Biden. Here's how that discussion went.
I don't think that this cover-up is really at this point as much about Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Mike Ferguson. We've got Gabe here. We've got Jerome here, now joined by Tony Kinnett from the Daily Signal. And by the way, if you haven't checked out this podcast, we'll tell you how to find that because, man, this thing's just exploding right now. It's doing a great job with it. And Tony, hear me out on this. I don't think this is necessarily as much about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is Biden. We all saw the decline. We all saw what was happening. I think this is about the cover-up of the people who knew that the man with the constitutional authority to launch World War III didn't know where to get his pudding and still was surprised at Matlock episodes that are 25 years old. I think the people around him are the ones that we need to say, that's what's relevant. That's why we need to know. This isn't about R is winning over D right now. Red is winning over blue. I think this is about what kind of deep state cover up did we have there? And can that still threaten us from here on out?
I mean, that's the real secret, isn't it? You have a situation that is the biggest scandal in this country in over a century. And the problem is we've been saying that for so long about, on both sides of the political aisle, about, oh no, Pete Hegseth texted his wife about bombing the Houthis, that now that there is an actual national scandal, it took the public a couple of minutes to actually realize the gravity of it. But I think that we're here. You actually have like Chris Cillizza from formerly CNN, who is roasting other left-wing journalists over the fire right now for trying to walk past this. I mean, it looks like, and again, I think you're right, this really has nothing to do with Biden himself. If anything, this is perhaps one of the worst cases of elder abuse that we've also seen in U.S. political history, because it looks like Pelosi and Obama, and I do not say this lightly, put Joe Biden up to die as a sacrificial lamb so that Kamala Harris could be installed as the next vice president, and then Obama could be her comforting advisor. That is actually how horrible this situation looks.
Good morning, Tony. Gabe here. And yeah, I was just about to ask specifically about that, the diagnosis and how, when cancer has metastasized, it's been there a while, right? So, prostate cancer doesn't just appear out of nowhere. There are indicators early on. You can catch it pretty early. It happened with my dad. And yet,
that's why I get a blood test twice a year.
Exactly. Yeah. After a certain age, they're looking for those markers all the time, right? So how is it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just by the way, thank God that they've figured out how to do this with a blood test instead of the prostate exam.
Yes,
please.
Yes, because I am now in the
we're in the age group.
Go on.
So
Press everyone real quick. Sorry.
My question is, what about this guy Kevin O'Connor? He was the White House physician for Joe Biden. Is anybody going to ask him a couple questions about what you were doing the entire time and not noticing or covering up the fact that there were obvious cancer markers in the president's blood?
Yeah, I mean, is he a proud graduate of the Penn Foster Medical School? I mean, what happened here? I mean,
so Scott McKay over at The Spectator, actually, I was just reading his article on this morning because, believe it or not, there are still additional takes to glean from all of this. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface on the tip of this iceberg. And I think that's a key thing here. What physician was Biden working with? What did he know? When did he know? And why didn't he say anything? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is probably one of the worst cases of medical malpractice that we've seen in American political history. I mean, if we're going to do this, we're going to find a very, very, very dark corner at the bottom of this rabbit hole. But again, this is what they did for themselves. They thought, well, as long as no one ever catches us, we'll be fine. And now that it's all breaking free and it's getting worse by the second, I mean, with the Axios crew finally releasing the audio, it might actually cause lasting, permanent damage to the Democrat Party. And if you're talking about what that means for every American, that is going to fundamentally change how our country operates.
Now, I'm actually thinking through what has to have happened with the whole Kevin O'Connor thing. If he kept all this information secret, did he deny Biden early treatment for cancer? which would be the death knell of him, and if he got reelected, he would definitely die within this term.
So this is where people like Meghan McCain, who have decided to come forward and say, right now, the Biden family needs privacy and silence, lots of silence. This is where people like Meghan McCain need to shut up, because this isn't an insult to Biden to ask these questions right now. If anything, what I've seen from the right and a lot of people on the left, again, still shocking me to my core here, is that people are suggesting we need to ask questions right now because Biden is one of the people who was wronged in this. And again, I'm not saying that Biden is a, wonderful, old, kind, loving man and, that kind of, no, I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, though, is that given this diagnosis, the case of elder abuse has gotten so large that we have to start asking questions. Jill needs to be brought forward to testify as well. There's no way she didn't know. You have 5 out of 5 doctors agreeing like this. Colgate can't even find 5 doctors that agree with each other.
Yeah, so true. We're visiting with Tony Kinnett from the Daily Signal. And so where do we then go from here? Because, obviously there's going to be some people who say looking at the immediate partisan gain and the damage this is going to do to the Democratic Party. But I'm looking at this as this is exposing that sort of deep state sort of cover up that probably happens to some degree around all presidents. And, we don't need to have every sinus infection put all over the news. I don't want world leaders to be, around the world and our enemies to know that a president might be, under the influence of cold medicine or something like that. But at some point like this, we had a non-functioning president. And when we would point that out, we'd say, look at the video. Look, he's slurring his words. Look, he's walking around shaking hands with nobody. Oh, my goodness, he's got to be taking orders from the Easter Bunny right now. At some point, who's actually in charge? And that's the big question, Tony. Who was making the decisions of running the executive branch of this country when Joe Biden was unable to do it?
And abracadabra, you've answered your own question as to where this is going next. Because when you look at Representative James Comer, who yesterday afternoon said they now believe they have identified all of the individuals who were in charge of the auto pen. Because if Biden wasn't writing the executive orders, if he wasn't giving the executive orders, the auto pen was intended for birthday cards. It wasn't intended for all of these executive orders and pardons. They're illegitimate. So that is where we're likely going to head. And I share the same kind of frustrations and let's say lack of confidence in Congress to do something instead of write letters. I don't believe that will be the case this time, partly because, and when I said lasting damage to the Democrat Party, I don't mean like day-to-day politics stuff. You do have an actual divide in that party who doesn't know how to address this. They've never been trained to. And so it's quite a mess. I don't even know how we would see hearings in Congress go, probably infighting between members of the left.
Yeah. And so, that's the thing is I don't know normally with what we do for a living with you and your show and your podcast and me with what I do here in my national show. The question often comes up to what do we want people to do to put leverage on lawmakers or on investigators? I'm not even sure what the next step is right now. What's the pressure? What's the fire that we bring? Because this is bigger, I'll argue, than even just Republican or Democrat. This is more systemic than that. This is something we've got to eradicate from the base.
Well, you need to do two things. Number one, you need to essentially pimp slap the tut-tutters. So all of the Karens who are like, oh, this is a time for family. Shut up. Shut up. The adults are talking. Don't be kind. Don't be gentle. Just tell them to shut up. If you want to go be a child and you don't want to actually engage with, again, the biggest political scandal in the history of this country, bar none, then just I don't want to just go. You're not going to be helped anyway. You're just going to go be some kind of a goober who wants to preach social media epithets. Go whatever. For the rest of America, what you need to do right now is you need to go read this stuff. You need to go watch the videos again. Go back into the 24 campaign, the 23 era, and watch this man. Watch what they told you. You have to keep this fresh and in perspective because eventually there is going to be some type of smooth it over style narrative that will make its way to the surface. And when you do, you need to be ready, not so that you can, not be lied to or whatever, but so that you can pay attention to who is telling you this so they never receive your support again.
Absolutely. All right, Tony, your podcast is, blowing up like crazy. I mean, you got the radio show as well, which is really what cool people do, but you got the podcast that's just climbing the charts like crazy. Where do people find you?
You can find us on the front page of the Apple Podcast section, or you can just Google Tony Kinnett, Kinnett, and I'll pop up probably. Just ignore the pictures.
Tony, man, I appreciate you being back on, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, guys.
All right, 314-912-1019. We got a lot of ground to cover today. As always, let's get going right here on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
That looks like we're giving Lindsay Lohan the keys to the minibar.
on News Talk STL.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
As we pause to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom this Memorial Day, let us remember their courage and dedication.
Words cannot measure the depth of their devotion, the purity of their love, or the totality of their courage.
A reminder from local businesses who support our veterans. Williams Brothers Meat Market, Berry Hill Golf Course, D. Gregorio's Food Products, and from News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
We're all up here at beautiful Berry Hill Golf Course. Congressman Eric Burleson just stopped by.
It's a beautiful day.
It is.
Absolute
play golf?
gorgeous. I don't play golf.
There you go.
Anytime that I was not in the Missouri House or Senate, I was in a cubicle. I just never had 4 hours to go play golf. I'll go sit in a deer stand or go stalk turkeys. And call them.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, am I getting myself in some trouble with this one today, Jerome?
Oh, right off the bat.
Right off the bat. We're going to ask one of the tough questions today. I'm telling you that I don't think any other media in town is going to be asking the question here. Leftists are going to be pissed off. I'll just tell you right up front. And honestly, there might be some people that are really uncomfortable with this because we're not supposed to go there with this. Okay, I'll tell you what that is in just a second. By the way, on newstalkstl.com, as Gabe mentioned yesterday, we've got a page now up for resources for those who want to get involved in helping others after the tornadoes hit on Friday. And also, if you maybe still need some help, there's information there for you as well. So just newstalkstl.com, and you can find that there. Okay, so I don't want to necessarily dive into the question at the moment, but I want to kind of set the table for it. if that makes sense. So everybody can kind of sip some coffee and kind of get the brain cells going here. City's emergency management commissioner, she's being shown the door. She's on the way out.
Ooh.
Yeah, the mayor acting very quickly. Sarah Russell failed at her job in a spectacular way. We will never know if her failure put anybody at risk and contributed to the death of 5 people. I'm not going to go out and say that she caused it because the tornado caused it, but she failed at her job. And the more that we learn about what happened and what did not happen on Friday, the more it is obvious that she was just AWOL, mentally AWOL for this. So here's what I want to ask the question. Should it have been obvious that you've got somebody there in that position who was hired based on ideology? Because here's the thing. We went and looked up, you and I went and looked up, Sarah Russell yesterday. I saved the tab because I don't know if it's still up there right now on the site, but I saved it. She's one of the they, them, gender confused people.
Just want to give a quick update. The website that I was referencing for the photo yesterday no longer links to her profile.
Exactly. Okay, I saved the tab, so I'm going to copy it and print it out for us here. So she was appointed by Tashara Jones, obviously one of the most radically left-wing ideological, Marxist who's been elected to office. So 6:05, I've got a little more details in the news dump about the mechanics of what's happening here. But then a little bit later, probably around 6:35, and I don't normally tease this far ahead, but I want everybody to kind of be thinking about it because it's going to get touchy. I'm going to ask the question, is this a DEI hire? Not because she's female. That's not an issue to me. But because of the gender ideology confusion. I'm going to get into this in more depth. I'm going to ask this question. If you've got somebody who clearly cannot tell the difference between male and female in themselves, in herself, why would that person be entrusted with a job that requires good judgment and being in reality?
Yeah, we don't like to talk about, being prejudiced based on how somebody looks, but she looks like Shrek. And I don't trust anybody that immediately sticks out as there's something off with you.
Right.
When you can look at somebody, you can say there's something not quite all there about you.
Right.
I don't know. Is that too far?
And she's got the very stereotypical lesbian look. I mean, there's, and I'm not trying to get into all that. And if she's, she's just a lesbian, says I'm a woman and I'm, I like other women, okay, whatever. She hangs out in the Grove, whatever. I don't care. But you've got somebody who's part of the gender cult and the gender confusion. And all of these years with this culture war, I think a lot of times we get caught up in, well, this is just about sports. This is just about, you've got to be inclusive, but and sometimes we get away from the fact that you're clearly looking at a dangerous mental illness. And is that a clear indicator of judgment? Is that a clear indicator of a mental state? And when we say something like that, well, you're being hateful, you're being bigoted, but that's why I think you see a lot in the LGBT community. You're seeing more of the L's, the G's, and the B's, to kind of quote Dave Chappelle, or kind of, go off that, trying to distance themselves from the T's, because there's clearly something. If you are in the T category, there is something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Period. But that's the evidence of it.
Well, let's look at nature. In nature, when something is venomous, it's usually got some sort of colorful streaks, something very much that alerts you that, this might be a venomous snake or frog or insect. And what do we see on that side? A lot of facial piercings, a lot of the times, a lot of hair dyeing stuff, a lot of just red flag warning signs. And I'm not saying, Sarah Russell does.
Sarah Russell she's got the butch haircut. She's got, and that's the thing is, there's a lot of lesbians out there. And if she were just gay, whatever, I have no issue. When you get to the they, them gender confusion, you should never be in that position in the first place. And I know somebody's saying, Mike, are you saying we should be discriminating? Yeah.
Yeah. We are too tolerant as a society.
Yes. So 6:35, let's dive head first into that. All right. This is interesting here. You remember the whole thing where the three Congress critters started throwing hands and throwing elbows with the Homeland Security agents or officers and the ICE agents.
Yep.
Okay, so one of those Congress critters, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver out of New Jersey, she's now been charged with actual crimes.
Oh.
Charges have actually been filed against her.
Good.
Yeah. This charged with 2 counts of assaulting, resisting, and impeding certain officers or employees. One of those charges involved the Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent, and another involving an ICE deportation officer, because, they got in and started this violent melee with these officers trying to protect these illegal aliens at this New Jersey detention center. And so the new prosecuting, basically, New Jersey federal attorney, which is Alina Habba, she's Trump needed somewhere for her to go. So, but Alina Habba filed, she's the acting U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey. She's filed those charges now. And so the Democrats, several Democrats, had a press conference outside the Capitol angry about this, denouncing that charges would be filed against people who threw hands and elbows against federal law enforcement agents.
How dare you hold us accountable for our own actions?
That's precisely it. Yeah, so they are really, really mad. Leaders of the Congressional Black Caucus, the Democratic Women's Caucus, and the Congressional Progressive Caucus were defending her at that press conference, and there were dozens of Democrats outside the U.S. Capitol on this. Basically, that's it. We get to be violent, but because we're on the left, we should never be accountable for what we did. We get to commit violence on our cause, but don't even think about doing it on your side.
Well, we just don't understand. They're the resistance, so it's all justified when they do it, because of course they're standing. We're the bad guys and they're the good guys. What a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, one of the things they were arguing is like, this is just a political stunt. No, it's on video. She committed. You can clearly see her throwing elbows. Now, first of all, throwing her weight around was enough because she's a big girl. But pushing, shoving, throwing an elbow, she's struck federal law enforcement. Now, was she a danger to actually injure them? Probably not. She's not particularly weak. That looks more like a buffet set of weight as opposed to a weightlifting weight. I'm just saying. But still, you don't get to assault law enforcement regardless of who you are. I hope they follow through and actually take it to trial and convict her.
Yes, that's what we need to see.
Yeah. Now, whether or not that follow through is going to happen, I don't know. But at some point, we have to stop and say, we're not going to go this direction as a country. So the criminal charges being filed, Habba is doing the right thing. And so we'll see whether there's the follow through on this, and hopefully, no, we're going to make a deal and then claim victory. No, take her ass to court, prosecute her, convict her.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colonies.
Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer. Let's party!
Wait, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Never paint again. This is Darren, owner of Rhino Shield. Want to eliminate painting your home, business, or church? Call the experts at Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield is a revolutionary ceramic wall coating to regular paint and vinyl. Perfect for aluminum, steel, unpainted brick, block, stucco, EIFS, drive it, cement board, and wood sidings. Rhino Shield eliminates wasting time and money painting year after year. Our ceramic coating deflects 90% of the sun's UV rays and 100% of the moisture. Our clients want affordable protection with the elimination of maintenance. Rhino Shield protects your biggest investment while maintaining your architectural features and gives you the curb appeal you deserve. Make your home great again by working with the Rhino Shield experts. A+ rated with the BBB. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. They worked into the wee hours of the morning. House lawmakers working on President Trump's big, beautiful bill that would, among other things, extend the 2017 tax cuts. A vote on the bill could come as early as tonight. Yesterday, the president paid a visit to Capitol Hill, hoping to convince GOP skeptics to support the bill that would also include $25 billion for a missile defense system and Mr. Trump calls the Golden Dome. Asked whether the Pentagon brass is on board.
Well, let me put it differently. I suggested it, and they all said, we love the idea, sir. It's the way it's got to be, right? But they want it, and they wanted it badly once it was suggested. I don't know if they ever thought they would be lucky enough to have it, but we were able to get it done, and we have all the funding, so pretty much tucked away. I think most people feel it's very important.
Mr. Trump says it would protect the entire continental U.S. from aerial attack. And the Senate's voted to eliminate federal taxes on tips, a Trump campaign promise.
Democrat Senator Jackie Rosen of Nevada brought the bill to the floor with the expectation that it would be blocked, but Texas Republican Ted Cruz declined to. It passed via unanimous consent. Cruz noted in his floor remarks in support of Rosen's unanimous consent request that Nevada's senators relayed that roughly 25% of Nevada's workers rely on tips. Rosen said that the Silver State has more tipped workers per capita than any other. Bernie Bennett, Washington.
5 down, 5 to go. 5 of the 10 inmates who broke out of a New Orleans jail last Friday have now been recaptured. A jail maintenance worker accused of helping them escape. More powerful storms overnight, this time slamming parts of the southeast. On Wall Street this morning, Dow futures down 428 points. The NASDAQ futures are off 154 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Healthcare is complicated. It doesn't have to be. If you don't love how your health insurance works, maybe it's time to leave traditional health insurance behind. Take charge of your health care with Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM offers you flexibility. Enroll anytime, choose your own provider, and select the program that fits your needs and budget. CHM is the original faith-based way of taking care of your medical bill costs. Learn more at chministries.org/wellness.
That's all no-brainers. Calling grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2025 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 7/2025. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store activation of single line gold unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A big shift in our local weather pattern, bringing dry and beautiful weather for the next few days. We really need this. Mostly sunny and cooler today. The high at 73, breezy at times, with a west wind around 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30, though. Mostly clear tonight, down to 53 in St. Louis. Partly cloudy tomorrow, even a touch cooler, up to 69 for the high. 72 and dry Friday, but still looking at occasional rain for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. At your First Alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Spring is in the air, and so are the savings at Johnson Heating and Cooling. From March 15th to June 15th, enjoy ultimate home comfort and incredible deals. Get up to $1,000 in rebates, plus 0 down and 0% financing. Johnson Heating and Cooling, keeping Winsville homes comfortable and wallets happy. Offers valid March 15th through June 15th. Some restrictions may apply. Call Johnson Heating and Cooling, 636-332-4141, or visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michael's Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michael's Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter. Michael's Flooring is ready to help. 3 locations to pick from: St. Peter's, Darting Prairie, and Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloor.com. That's igotfloor.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Trump continues to push his big, beautiful bill, but it is an uphill push. Stand by for the latest.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
Gabe Pfeiffer.
There's something serious I have to tell you about the future.
Get up, St. Louis.
Hey, will you guys knock it off?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin Rob.
All right, let's get to the bigger question. Why was a mentally and gender confused person in charge of something so important in the city in the first place?
Are we going to say the thing?
Yeah, we're going to do it. I mean, it's right there in front of us. Everybody sees it.
We should say the thing.
We're going to do this. So, I mean, I've got the basic details here in a second, guys. I'm just telling you right now, right around 6:35, let's ask the question that I don't think anybody else in St. Louis is going to be asking.
Not this bluntly.
At all. At some point, because we talk about all of this gender ideology and everything, and we talk about how dangerous it is and how bad it is. And the whole point is, because you're outside of reality, you are confused. This is absolute 100% demonstrable proof of mental conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so why on earth would you put somebody in a life or death situation where good judgment is required? Yes, we're going to ask the questions. And yes, I think it's different than if somebody just happens to be gay or something like that. I think this is very different. So let's get into that at 6:35. All right, 6:06 right now. President Trump announces a new national defense system that's in the works and being built. This is interesting. And the Cardinals, they've got a midday game today to decide the winner and loser of the current series with the Tigers. Let's go ahead and get into a news dump.
The morning news dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks. The morning news dump.
Okay, we're going to go into more depth on this at 6:35. So be thinking about your comments and questions. And I'm very well aware that somebody's going to get mad at me for my take on this.
Yes, same.
It's going to happen.
You can spread some of that peanut butter over here. That's fine.
Well, and also there are going to be people who are let's just get along. Let's not go there.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
I get what you're the kind of in that squishy middle on this. I'm going to challenge you to think about taking a harder position, whether it's with me or against what I think, one way or the other. But the commissioner in charge of the city's emergency management is on the way out. Mayor Cara Spencer placed Sarah Russell on paid leave and has appointed an interim emergency management commissioner while the search for a permanent replacement takes place. Russell and her team were not in the emergency management office where the warning siren activation system is when Friday's tornado struck the Central West End and North City, killing 5 people. She and her team instead were in an office workshop in another building. And so it didn't take long to investigate the timeline of what happened, and none of it was good. And it just showed absolutely horrendous judgment on her part.
So it had nothing to do with her being unable to figure out which bathroom to go into.
Correct.
Just playing out horrible decision-making skills from somebody that should have never been in that position to begin with.
Right, precisely. Now they did find that there is apparently a backup button in the fire offices, and that did not work. They tried to test that yesterday, and that did not work, which is all the more reason that somebody should have been in those emergency management offices. But we'll get into that in more depth at 6:35. And yes, somebody's going to be mad at me. Those of you who are on the left, you're really going to be mad at me. But if you're willing to have a good faith discussion, 314-912-1019. All right. You've heard about this situation in Illinois, just outside Chicago, where there was the track meet. I think it was a middle school track meet. And there was a boy who's, the gender confused boy running in the girls thing. And he just
smoked everybody.
He smoked all the girls.
Mhm.
I mean, it was clearly, and then, it made some news because there were like some people yelling, "That's a boy." And then some other people like, "No,
Don't
that's
say
a
that."
girl." They might as well get him go, "No, he's a girl." And then what was interesting is the girl who actually won,
Mhm.
who was considered second
Second,
place,
yeah.
after the medal ceremony, she went and walked up on the first place thing and just stood there by herself for a minute so somebody could take a picture, making a point on this. So this was 7th grade. You're telling me the 7th grade boy, now says, "Well, I'm a girl," and the school district in Naperville is all about it. They're okay with it.
Of course they are.
Our friend Shannon Adcock with Awake, Illinois, has filed a federal civil rights complaint against that school district. She was on Fox News last night on America Reports talking about this.
"I'm sorry for this boy that he has national attention on him, but the people entrusted with him exploited him the minute they said, sure, you can, as a boy, compete on the girls' team. And now we're at where we're at. We're having to file this federal complaint with the hopes that federal funds will be frozen and we can protect these children."
So where we're at right now is that Illinois' human rights laws protect the whole gender ideology nonsense.
Right.
The federal Title IX
Mm-hmm.
prohibits that sort of thing and says that those schools should not get any federal funding. So this is going to be one of those high stakes court cases at some point.
Absolutely. They got the government's going to turn off the spigot and they're going to be upset about it. And it's going to end up in Supreme Court someplace.
Yep. And there's already some lawsuits over funds being frozen. We're going to talk to our friend Michael Neal about that in about an hour. All right. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was joining President Trump in announcing details on the Trump administration's what they're calling the Golden Dome Missile Protection Plan for the nation. The president says the project should be functional in about 3 years.
This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term.
$25 billion from next year's defense budget is being set aside for the project. Some congressional budgeters think that it may cost up to $500 billion over the next 20 years or so. I got some thoughts just real quick around 6:20. I want to get into that. I actually think this is a really good idea.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Very good idea
Yep.
here.
This is kind of giving me Star Wars vibes from the Reagan administration.
Yep, precisely. Exactly. All right. New York Democratic Congress critter LaMonica McIver is facing felony assault charges after she threw hands and elbows with at least 2 federal agents near a Newark ICE migrant detention facility. Remember, they were protesting, trying to protect the illegal aliens suspected of serious crimes. Senator Josh Hawley was on the Ingram Angle on Fox, and he was doing his touchdown dance on this one.
It sounds like to me, Laura, the Democrats have decided to take a break from flying around the world to go hold the hands of gang members and now try to break into our own facilities to let criminals out one by one.
So Representative McIver says the charges are purely political.
Oh, of course.
Despite the video literally showing her assaulting law enforcement officers.
Yeah, has nothing to do with her being a violent idiot.
Right. Oh, geez.
Don't believe your lying eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I see. The thing is, I don't even know that they can argue that she didn't do it.
Right.
It's just a matter of, well, it's not a crime if we do it.
I guess that would be the only defense they could make. It's like, well, it was only a little shove. It was a very light elbow.
Right. There was nothing light about this congresswoman. I'm just saying.
But Your Honor, I was fighting fascism.
Yeah, well, that's basically it.
That's it.
At one point at that press conference yesterday, they were like, we have a right to conduct oversight of what's like. No, that's not oversight.
No.
Oh, man. All right. Okay, Gabe, they're watching you.
Okay.
I'm
in it.
If you're planning to rent an Airbnb to throw a Memorial Day rager, Gabe, probably not going to happen, Gabe.
all up in my business.
I'm telling you.
Come on, man.
The rental platform says it's deploying an algorithm to detect likely holiday parties, and they're going to block those reservations.
You're going to squash all my fun. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, you see, the
I
thing
had
is,
the D&D game set up and everything.
I know. I'm saying. Now, see, I will tell you that if this were happening like 6 months ago, we would be having fun. Like, okay, Stell, you and your Ranger.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the next one in line.
Right. Some of the red flags that's going to alert the system are trying to rent a place near where you live. Also making a reservation at the very last minute. Last year, the system blocked 50,000 reservations. Now, some of those are probably legit. I mean,
maybe,
because it's like, oh, I got family coming in. I need to get a place for them, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But they're looking for those algorithms. They also do this around spring break time, too. They deploy the same.
I got to tell you, it's another, this is why we can't have nice things situation.
Yeah.
I went to a wedding not too long ago, and the hotel had a sign.
Yeah.
Because this was a college town, I think, and it had a sign that said, basically something to the effect of, if you're under this age and you live close by, you're not allowed to rent here.
Rolla's now doing that.
Yeah.
Rolla's doing that.
Yep.
6-time Emmy winning actor George Wendt has passed away. 76 years old. He would reach fame as a comedian in Chicago. The Bears. Before landing the role as Norm on Cheers.
Yeah.
Hey, what's happening, Norm?
It's a dog-eat-dog world, Sammy, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear.
Oh, one of the great characters of all time.
Seriously. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my goodness. George went dead at the age of 76.
Right now, before you blow us all away. Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Looking for a hardware store that treats you like family? Welcome to True Value Schneider's Hardware, your local gem in Old Town St. Peters. For over 100 years, we're proudly serve you St. Charles County, providing everything from lawn and garden supplies to plumbing and electrical. Need a bolt or fastener? We've got you covered. And don't forget, we're a steel dealership. Whether you need sales, parts, or service, ask for Charlie or Jerry when you come in. We're here to help. Call 636-278-4461 or visit us online at truevalue.com/Schneiders.
As we pause to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom this Memorial Day, let us remember their courage and dedication.
Words cannot measure the depth of their devotion, the purity of their love, or the totality of their courage.
A reminder from local businesses who support our veterans. Williams Brothers Meat Market, Berry Hill Golf Course, D. Gregorio's Food Products, and from News Talk STL.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Hey guys, I don't know about you, but I love learning about national and international issues here on News Talk STL. But do you know what's going on in your neck of the woods, your city, your county, and its politics? If you live in Jefferson County and want to know more about what's happening locally, join Speaker Tim Jones and me, Councilman Billy Crow, as we dive into all things Jefferson County on Sundays at high noon on Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
On News Talk STL.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, Chris Arp from the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
All right, I just mentioned it. One of the great character actors of our time dies. And again, it's weird because we've had like celebrity stuff that's ended up on the show, and I really don't like celebrity stuff. But this isn't one of those like left-wing celebrity nut things. I mean, I have no idea what George Wendt thought, politically. But what a great character with Norm. And then on Saturday Night Live, the Bears guys, I don't even know if they ever named that character. But where does his role rank on your list of favorites? I'm going to ask that question here in a few minutes. 6:18 right now. All right. The emergency management commissioner who failed the city is being shown the door. So 6:35. I want to talk about that, but we're going to dig into the tougher question. And I'm just going to say, I think what a lot of people are thinking, but are afraid to say.
Yes.
Should this be a warning to everyone about hiring the gender confused when life and death is part of the job description, when good judgment that affects people's safety is part of, should this be a warning? I mean, let's go ahead and ask the question. We're going to do that at 6:35. All right. Hey, real quick. I just mentioned this in the news dump here. President Trump announces what he's calling the Golden Dome project to protect the U.S. from missile attacks. So essentially what we're looking at is, it looks like it's clearly patterned after what I can see a couple of things. The Iron Dome in Israel,
right,
which is very effective,
extremely
not foolproof, but effective. And then you mentioned it, Reagan's Star Wars, which was never built, but just the idea,
yes,
really upset Russia and was a big part of the negotiations, with Gorbachev and something that they really, really hated. So President Trump is saying, I want to create this. We've got all the satellites. So basically, we can detect missiles coming in. Now, I'd be shocked if we don't have something in place now, but this apparently is the new next generation of the technology as sort of that shield for, incoming missile attacks on this. Obviously, it's going to be very, very, very expensive. However, this seems like a really good idea to me.
Absolutely. And one indicator, at least on the global stage, that it is a good idea is that China, I hear, is not too happy about about it, and think that it's going to upset global stability.
So think about that for a second. What would destabilize anything globally by having a 100% defensive system?
Right. And it's the same question and the same answer, like we said, of what was going on in the Reagan administration with Star Wars, because just to take some of you kids back,
he calls it Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI.
Yeah,
we
SDI.
all call it Star Wars.
Yeah, well, it was pejoratively named Star Wars, I think, by an opponent. Because they were trying to relate it to some sort of pie in the sky fictional, sci-fi sort of idea that isn't real, isn't grounded in reality. And we jumped on it and said, oh, yes, we want Star Wars. But the idea was during the I won't say the height of the Cold War, but certainly a high point in the Cold War where we're pointing missiles at each other between us and Russia. The idea of a space-based system that can detect and possibly shoot down incoming ballistic missiles would destabilize the balance of power, because mutually assured destruction was the rule of the day. It was like, okay, if you launch, I'm going to launch, and we're both going to die, so let's not. Was the idea. But if it's you launch, we intercept, we're fine, and we can do whatever the heck we want, that quote unquote destabilize the situation. And Russia could not keep up with even the concept of it, and they basically spent themselves into oblivion trying to catch up to what it did actually turn out to be a fictional system.
And then Israel builds a real version of it.
Yes,
the Iron Dome, which has been very effective. In defense, because they're under basic constant attack over the years. And so what's interesting is, and Reagan at one point said, I'm willing to share and give you this technology.
That's right.
So you can have the defense too.
Yeah. All of our allies were going to be covered by this too.
Well, he was willing to give it to Russia.
Oh, did he?
I mean,
I even missed that portion.
He's
of
like,
it.
hey, you know what?
You can have
just to show you the good faith that this is truly defensive, we're willing to give it to you. And so that's the thing where, imagine if every nation had its own system to defend itself. Okay, then we're negotiating on a whole new level, and we've got probably a new level of stability. So I hope this thing gets built.
Yes,
I really do.
And
now,
in
3 years seems a little aggressive, but
well, in this case, all the technology exists.
Yeah.
All of the, it is a far cry from the SDI system concept, because we did not have the computing capability, the sensing capability, or the computational capability to determine all the things necessary to make that work. But right now, it's absolutely a system that can exist. I mean, the like you said, the Israeli Iron Dome is a perfect example of even back in the day in the 90s, where we were talking about Patriot missile intercepts of Scud missiles back in the day in Iraq. Okay, the technology is basically this. Let's take a bullet and hit a bullet out of midair.
Yeah.
That's the scientific concepts behind it. Now, we figured out how to do that. We've got computers that can do that, and rocket systems and everything like that will accomplish those things. So it's just a matter of growing it exponentially and using our satellite technology to expand its capability.
And that's just one part of national defense. I mean, obviously there are so many others, but that's the mass destruction one of the mass destruction ones that you can compete. I don't think the next attack on the U.S. is going to be a missile.
No.
But we can basically guarantee it won't be with something like this.
Right.
Yeah. All right. 624 right now. I got to tell you, when I'm thinking of the great characters and the great television, I got that alert yesterday, television actor dead at 76. And honestly, I don't even open those because I don't care about the celebrity stuff. And then this morning I wake up and find out that it was George Wendt.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
I think Cheers may be my second favorite sitcom ever.
It's definitely a top 10 to me, top 10 sitcom of all time in America.
I think so. And Norm is one of the best characters. George Wendt was fantastic in that role. And of course, a lot of people remember him Saturday Night Live with the Bears guy. He was one of those as well. But people forget he was a really accomplished stand-up comedian before getting those roles.
Yep.
So, I don't know anything about George Wendt's personal life or political stuff, which means he just kept it to himself.
Yes.
Which, good.
That's what they did back in the day.
And so you think about what are the great characters on those and the great sitcoms. What are some of your favorites? Now I'm going to go on a limb and I'm going to guess, because we've got a generational difference here, that we're going to have different lists. But my favorite sitcom probably of all time, and I really don't watch that much TV anymore, was MASH. But a very close second was Cheers. Just what a great set of characters. What about you guys?
I like I'm not a big fictional television guy, but It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's a sitcom about the worst people to have ever existed and the adventures that they go on. I didn't get to really cash in on that era of sitcom, so I'm familiar with the Bears.
Kind of a golden era of sitcoms. It really was. I mean, we were just talking, right around the same time you had the Cosby Show, which right now you say that people are like, oh, that's awful. Well, but the show itself was a really funny show.
It was amazing. It was a great show.
And Gabe and I were just talking just off air a few minutes ago. It's like, it's the tragedy of what Bill Cosby, I wouldn't even say became, what we discovered that he was or is the tragedy isn't just a waste of talent. It's destroying that legacy, because that show frankly was kind of important, even though it was really, really funny. It was just a good sitcom, but it had other importance as well.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, when those things happen, stations don't play it. Streaming services don't carry it. I mean, they carry it, but it's not really a prominent thing. And nobody's,
it's not in syndication.
Nobody's watching it. Nobody's talking about it. But honestly, if barring the controversy around Bill Cosby, the man, that show would be everywhere right now. People would still be talking about it and showing it. Now, one of my favorite characters from back in the day was Alex P. Keaton.
Oh, yes, from Family Ties.
Yes.
Family Ties.
Yes, he's the predecessor of Carlton Banks.
Yeah.
in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They're basically the same character.
Yes.
And then the Golden Girls was surprisingly really good. That was me and my grandmother's favorite. And then I did grow up with I think
Betty White's character in that is just, I mean, it's so funny.
Great.
But Family Matters.
Yes.
I found out it was only recently that I found out that Steve Urkel was not meant to be the main character.
He was not.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, they changed everything around that show to fit Steve Urkel. He was supposed to be like a goofy background character, and I was just like, wow.
Well, yeah, he was the nutty neighbor to the main characters. and he was so popular, they basically restructured the show around him.
I did not know
Yep,
that.
yep. And I got called Steve Urkel for the entirety of my adolescence. It wasn't until I got contacts that then I became Stefan Urkel.
Oh. Was that better?
Slightly.
Well, because there was that one episode where like he drank the potion and became the cool kid for a minute.
That's what I'm referring to.
Okay,
Yeah,
there
exactly.
was.
So that's his alter ego,
But
the cool alter ego.
I think the funny part was with Norm, the character Norm, but that George Wendt did.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody could kind of relate. The good-hearted guy who he hasn't given up, but he knows his place. And I don't want to rule the world. I'm content having here. It's because there was always there was one line in one of the scenes where Shelley Long's character says, "Doesn't your wife miss you when you don't spend time with her at home?" And he looks at her, he goes, "Would you?" And it was
he just knows himself.
Yeah.
And that was one of the beauties of that character, because he was very much a quintessential everyman.
Yes.
He would fit in today's conversation, because we talk about regular Joe who's being lost, who's being, there was that whole thing with the oh gosh, what was it called? There was that song, that sort of Appalachian song that kind of caught fire. It was basically Rich Men in Richmond or something like that. And the idea was that there's a lost group of people in America, the ones who put in the hard work. They're just the people who they keep the world going, and they're just the regular everyman, and they're being left behind by their government. Norm would basically be one of those characters.
Yeah.
He'd just be the comedic version
right.
of the everyman.
He's just a
that's
working
being left behind.
who goes to the office, and we never found out. I don't think we ever found out
what his actual career was.
Yeah,
no.
I mean, Cliff, he was the mailman, and but he came in with a ill-fitting sport jacket every day and the tie that didn't quite, But it's kind of funny. Some between Goat Lady and 101 and Jay Monty, they're listing off some of the great sitcoms of that era. And a lot of them were the ones that you and I were mentioning off air. Different Strokes.
Oh, yep.
Cheers,
yep.
Jeffersons.
Yep.
I said Jeffersons.
Moving on.
All in the Family. Let's see here. Sanford and Son. Remember, I mentioned Sanford and Son as well. Beverly Hillbillies. That was before mine, but I used to watch the reruns of that.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
It was just the outrageous characters on that. But
yes,
but that's what I loved about Cheers is because it was set in a bar. It was the neighborhood bar.
Yeah.
And you could put whatever character you wanted in there. And so it was just a great one. I think we don't have those. I mean, I don't even know what the sitcoms are out there now. I think the last really, really funny one was probably How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, I think there's one called Schitt's Creek. That's
that was pretty funny too.
Yeah, that's been a big deal for a little while.
What was the other one? Big Bang Theory. That was
Big Bang Theory.
That was pretty funny.
I mean,
Big Bang Theory is not funny.
Oh, I don't know.
I hate that show.
All right, just ahead here. Okay, we've had our moment of levity.
Yes.
We go. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess we're going to be the only media that's going to ask the question. Shouldn't it have been obvious that you had the wrong person in a high pressure job that requires good judgment? So the city is firing in the process of firing the emergency management commissioner. And the question I've got is, shouldn't it have been obvious that she was the wrong pick? And yes, I'm going to say the things that you're not supposed to say that's politically incorrect, but I'm going to go in it. You get mad at me? Let's do it.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A big shift in our local weather pattern, bringing dry and beautiful weather for the next few days. We really need this. Mostly sunny and cooler today. The high at 73, breezy at times, with a west wind around 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30, though. Mostly clear tonight, down to 53 in St. Louis. Partly cloudy tomorrow, even a touch cooler, up to 69 for the high. 72 and dry Friday, but still looking at occasional rain for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Hey,
Hey, News Talk STL listeners. This is Levi, CEO of Reach Reproductive Health. There was a huge gap left when the biggest pregnancy center in St. Louis had to close their doors right after Amendment 3. But by God's grace and power, Reach has been able to step into that space. We have acquired Thrive centers and are continuing operations in greater St. Louis. I have a request for you. Would you pray and consider getting to know Reach more? We are here to see babies saved and families transformed by the power of Christ. Get to know us on our Reach community website, outreachforlife.org. That's outreachforlife.org.
Dr. Randy Tobler here, and I know that when you're looking for a dentist, you have to make sure you choose a dental practice that's compatible with you and the needs of your family. Well, I'd like to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Dan Cusimano, and his partner, Megan Dwyer, and their team at Advanced Dentistry at St. Charles. The great team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles can accommodate all of your cosmetic and restorative needs because their passion is general dentistry. Implants, crowns, bridges, even dentures, that what you need the most is what they'll provide in a personalized, focused way. And they can provide therapeutic and cosmetic options like Botox and dermal fillers. Get to know them and all they have to offer by calling 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
That's Advanced Dentistry Now, 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
We are already making America healthy again.
The border is 99.99% safe.
Energy costs have plummeted. Mortgage rates are down.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy, Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right. I'm just going to go ahead and open up the can of worms here. And I am well aware, and I say this seriously, that there are going to be people who are going to be really uncomfortable with this, and there are going to be people who are angry with this. So here's my challenge. If you disagree, I get it. That's fine. And if you're willing to engage in a conversation, 314-912-1019.
In good faith without being an a-hole.
If you're in good faith, yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm not going to go name calling, but I am going to say things that are going to get me accused of being discriminatory and bigoted.
Right.
So here's what's going on. The emergency management commissioner who failed the city, she's out. So it's even a matter of, did leftist ideology that put her in that position help endanger people? I think, yeah, we're gonna ask that question about the they them who was fired
right
here. Okay, but I want to make it really clear. We have for years, I think, engaged in the culture war debate over the gender confusion and the gender ideology. We've established how evil it is, and we've looked at some of the horrible effects, the mutilation of children, the capture of K through 12. But I don't think people have thought in the terms of, yes, we have to accept that this is an absolute dangerous mental disorder here.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into that. Don't forget, Flashback Friday's coming up this week. Get your requests in, send them to Jerome, or put them on our comments or chat, social media. So Jerome is there ready to field them all. He's like the goalie in front of the goal. So send him his way so he can grab them. Okay, so Mayor Kara Spencer is right. Human error was clearly the reason the warning sirens were not activated Friday when the tornado struck the city.
Right.
Plenty of media coverage about the timeline. It did not take them long to investigate what went wrong, and it was obvious what went wrong. The person in charge of emergency management failed the city. She had her entire team on at the very time that a large storm, which was predicted to spawn off tornadoes and dangerous hail, at that very time took her team off site to another building for some kind of workshop. We don't know what the workshop subject was. Frankly, it doesn't really matter, but I still want to pursue that and find out what it was. Okay, so there's the aspect of that's poor judgment. Okay. And I know that there's somebody right now saying, Mike, that doesn't have anything to do with somebody's sexuality. Okay.
Well,
I will grant part of that.
Yes, part of the argument is
part
is
of that
valid.
is true.
Mhm.
By the way, the mayor changed the city protocol. It turns out that Sarah Russell wrote the protocol in 2021 when she was appointed by Tashara Jones.
Oh,
and it was unclear. It was that was part of the problem as well.
And apparently replaced a protocol that had existed prior, which
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
Or even if you just rewrote it, whatever it was, it didn't work out. So they've changed the protocol, made it clear. That's fine. The fire department's in charge now. Fine. Okay. But let's talk about the inconvenient part. I still have the tab up because they have taken her page down.
Right.
But it's under like about us kind of thing.
Mhm.
Let me go to it because I still have it. If I refresh it, it's going to be gone. It says Sarah Russell, CEM, meaning Commissioner of Emergency Management. And then underneath, SEMA Commissioner, they, them.
Right.
Okay.
Red flag. That's to me,
Yeah.
that's immediate red flag.
The inconvenient part of this, why is somebody who's clearly mentally confused put in charge of something that requires good judgment? So they, them, Sarah Russell, was appointed by Tashara Jones in 2021. Does this look like a DEI hire? Maybe. And here's the thing is if you've got somebody, when I saw the picture, I'm like, well, that's obviously, she's obviously lesbian. Well, no, now she says it's the they, them,
Right.
whatever that is. Okay.
Took it a little step further.
If somebody's gay,
Mhm.
I can agree or disagree or whatever I don't care what they do on their own time, as long as they're not hurting somebody else. And we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Right.
But you've got this gender ideology that at its core is mental confusion and dysphoria.
It's a rejection of reality.
Precisely. Exactly. So this is demonstrating the dangers of buying into this radical gender ideology. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think the trannies caused the tornado.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly. That's not what we're saying.
But we've been arguing about the gender ideology and the compelling of speech. You will use my pronouns.
Right.
You will accept this.
Mhm.
You will normalize the bulge. You remember that whole thing with Dylan Mulvaney?
That was a thing.
I saw another one that was normalize feminine boys. I mean, I literally saw that on social media. So there's the compelling of speech that we've pushed back against over, pronouns and sexual norms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the culture war stuff.
Right.
Purely
Culture
culture
war stuff.
Purely culture war stuff.
We should also be pointing out the obvious here, though, that if you are so deranged that you cannot tell the difference between male and female in yourself, you should not be in a position to make decisions that affect the safety of other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have no qualms with that reasoning. And in fact, I think that is the reasonable conclusion to be made. If someone said, and we have this discussion in generalities, prior to this, about how it shows itself, the gender ideology stuff shows itself to be mental illness. We say, well, if someone believed any other type of thing that they are not, it's like I'm a train, I'm a cat, I'm any other thing, pick any other thing besides a different gender, and people immediately recognize, well, that's a mental illness. That person needs help. That's not somebody I want to trust with important life or death, decisions and things like that. Everybody immediately understands that fact. But once you add quote unquote gender and the thousands or whatever different versions of it that you can have, they say, well, no, but that's just their identity. That's somehow it's not mental illness. And we reject that. It's stupid to make that the dividing line. They are clearly mentally ill and they don't need to be in positions of power.
Now, Matthew makes a good point, though. Not saying that we're wrong, but that the mental health of an individual needs to be taken into consideration. However, what Matthew was saying is that the bigger story is the decades of incompetence from the city and local government overall, rather than just a matter of somebody was so confused, like, by boy or girl, I can't hit the button, so
right. Well, and no, that's the type of debate that I'm hoping to have here. But where did a lot of that incompetence come from the city? From radical ideology.
Yeah.
Well, so here's, I guess, because I agree entirely. If you can't figure out which bathroom to go in, you should not be trying to figure out anything for anybody else. But is it more accurate to maybe look at it from the lens of, if a government is appointing people with these ideologies, that's a bigger sign of that being an incompetent government rather than if somebody's confused about their own ideology, then they are not competent for the position.
I think both are true.
Both.
I think they're related.
Yeah, I think they are too, because Tashara Jones, when she was mayor, made it very clear how radical she is into the ideology, into the Marxist side of this ideology, sexual ideology. I mean, she threw her own law enforcement under the bus if there was a conflict with anybody in an LGBT anything.
Right.
So I think they go hand in hand, actually.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, when I first saw the press conference and you saw the picture and you're like, okay, so we're going to stereotype that she's lesbian, whatever. Butch haircut, she fits all. Okay. If that's just all it was, I don't think we even have this discussion.
Yeah.
You're like, well, somebody got in the job who wasn't up for it.
Right.
And that's the way that it was. But when you find out later that, okay, well, this is part of this disturbed, confused subset, these should be disqualifying things.
And that's, I think, what's kind of at the core of what we're talking about. Because if the overall arching idea is we want competent people in positions of power and positions of important, emergency we want the most competent people in those situations, right?
I don't care how they vote.
Positions, right? Yes. And here's the thing. There are examples in their lives and the way they conduct themselves in their histories that can point to whether or not they are competent.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we're saying is, among the many other things, many other ways we can evaluate your potential competence to be appointed to a certain position, we should include buying into the trans craziness. That should be one of the disqualifying criteria that goes into our consideration of whether or not you are demonstrated to be capable of a job this important.
Yeah, I mean, so stop being nice and inclusive.
Right.
Care about the people enough to say you need to get help.
Yeah, you need help.
You need help. But this kind of box checking DEI hire, or maybe it was box checking, I'm going to make a statement type of hire, is something that contributed to the danger.
Yes.
That the people of St. Louis were put into.
Yeah.
This isn't about me caring what she does privately in her own life.
Sure.
I don't care.
Yeah. And she can think what she wants. I mean, it's America, right?
Right.
But that doesn't mean you qualify to be in a position of importance and safety for our society.
At some point, we have to be able to say that's enough. This position requires solid judgment and an attachment to reality, not putting ideology above all else. And that's not what happened here. And people in St. Louis were not warned of a Category 3, an EF3 tornado that killed 5 people and injured almost 40 that we know of, and did $1.6 billion of damage. It's not Sarah Russell's fault that the tornado happened,
right?
But it's certainly her fault that there were a lot of people who weren't warned in time that it was on the ground.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Someone in that control room is out of control.
On News Talk STL.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie. Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC, Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Springtime in St. Louis means one thing. That's right. Golf is back, baby. Sugar Creek Golf Course is located in High Ridge, just 10 minutes from 270 and Gravois. To book your tee time or to learn more about the special event and banquet facilities, simply visit sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
Is your pup in need of a spa day? At Pretty Little Paws, we believe grooming should be a stress-free, tail-wagging experience. Our one-on-one, fear-free grooming ensures your furry friend gets the gentle, personalized care they deserve. No noisy kennels or long waits. Just love, patience, and expert grooming in a calm, relaxing environment. Because a happy pup means a happy you. Pretty Little Paws, with 2 locations in O'Fallon and St. Peters. Visit us online at prettylittlepawsgrooming.com.
Attention Chesterfield, your beverage destination has arrived. Introducing the all-new Save On Liquor and Wine Chesterfield, a massive 30,000 square foot paradise. Step inside our walk-in humidor featuring the largest selection of premium cigars anywhere. From craft beers to fine wines, top shelf liquors to trendy spritzers. We got it. Competitive prices, knowledgeable staff, and an unbeatable selection. Visit the new Chesterfield Airport Road location today, one of our many stores across Missouri and Illinois, or at saveonliquor.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here, waiting for you for the 3 Martini Lunch, the Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Now back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, a lot going on here. We just were talking about that bigger picture question regarding the mentally and gender confused person in charge of something so important in St. Louis and the failure, and should there have been warning signs. That conversation's going to be like the rest of the show up on podcast here in a little bit. Got some thoughts on that? Keep them coming. We've got quite a discussion going on the Rumble chat box in particular. You can also comment on Facebook in the comments and everything as well. Also, President Trump announces a new national defense system that's being built. Cardinals have a midday game today. And by the way, right around 7:35. Okay, RFK Jr., we have a debate on whether, what he's doing is good, whether him being an authoritarian is a good or bad thing and what government should do. But when it comes to the actual idea of, okay, we want actual, real, healthy food, there's the government debate, and then there's, okay, but why don't you just go ahead and do it yourself? Now you don't have to wait for government. I've actually got one of the experts on that, going to be in at 7:35, taking everything that RFK Jr. has put into the spotlight, and there's the actual food part of it, and then there's the regulation part of it. Well, the food part of it, I actually agree. But you don't have to wait for government to make the changes. You can do it yourself. And so we're going to talk about that at 7:35. It is 7:50 right now. Let's go and dump some news on you here.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
Okay, the commissioner in charge of the city's emergency management is on the way out. Mayor Cara Spencer placing Sarah Russell on paid leave, and in the meantime has appointed an interim emergency management commissioner while the search for a permanent replacement takes place. Russell and her team were not in the emergency management office where the warning siren activation system is when Friday's tornado struck the Central West End and North City, killing 5 people. That entire team, she and her entire team, were instead at an office workshop in another building at that time. All right, let's see here. This was interesting. Illinois is in the news again here. It's made the rounds on social media. This middle school track meet where a gender confused, mentally ill boy who wants to try to live like a girl joined the track team, and in Illinois, he's allowed to compete against girls. And of course, you knew what was going to happen. He whooped up on all the girls.
Yeah.
And of course, the videos went there and it went crazy on social media. Our friend Shannon Adcock from Awake, Illinois, has filed a federal civil rights complaint against the school district in question. She was on Fox's America Reports to talk about that.
I'm sorry for this boy that he has national attention on him, but the people entrusted with him exploited him the minute they said, sure, you can, as a boy, compete on the girls' team. And now we're at where we're at. We're having to file this federal complaint with the hopes that federal funds will be frozen and we can protect these children.
Okay, so Illinois' human rights laws go out of their way to protect these mentally ill children and impose that on other children. Under the Trump administration, obviously, through Title IX, they're saying that's not allowed and we're going to cut off the funds. So Shannon's federal complaint hopefully will result in federal funds being cut off to the school district. But the reality is that this is likely going to end up in court somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and it should. We need all these things adjudicated properly,
Yeah.
just to make sure everybody understands what's what.
Okay, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and President Trump announcing yesterday details of the new Golden Dome missile protection plan that is now being built. The president says the project should be functional in about 3 years.
This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term.
$25 billion from next year's defense budget is being set aside for the project. Some congressional budgeters suggest that it could cost up to $500 billion over the next 20 years or so. This looks like it's based on not even just so much the Israeli Iron Dome, which appears to be based on the concept that Ronald Reagan pitched to the world, the Strategic Defense Initiative, or what people call Star Wars as well. So this looks like it's along the same concept. And frankly, if it can be made to be functional and useful, this seems like a really good idea. I don't know why anybody would oppose it. I understand that it would be very, very expensive.
Yes.
But still, this seems like a very good idea to me.
I think generally speaking, the naysayers will say, well, America isn't really under the same sort of threat of missile attack that it was in the 80s, let alone what Israel goes through on a regular basis. Neither Canada nor Mexico was ever lobbing missiles at us.
Canada may deploy the horses against us, but
Canada can't even trebuchet a beaver at us. Okay,
That's true,
so it's fine. But
not even their hockey team.
Not even their hockey
team. Of a threat anymore.
Oh man.
Oh, I said it. Sorry, Janet.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, sweetie. I couldn't control him there. But seriously though, I think that the naysayers will say, well, there isn't really a threat that this is addressing, which is why they haven't really done it before. It's not there aren't limits to the technological capability of doing it. It's just a matter of, well, do we want to spend all the money for this upkeep of a system that isn't really going to be used? But I think the value of it on the world stage may even outweigh, whatever, what do you call it? Cost, opportunity cost may be lost by spending money on it. But I am concerned about the sporty timeline. getting it fully operational by the end of his term seems a bit much.
That's a very ambitious.
It's very ambitious.
But here's the thing: if it's operational and it's up, if a Democrat wins in 2028, they would not be able to. It would be very, very difficult for them to take it down.
Yeah, that's true.
But it would be much easier for them to stop it in progress.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's operational, it would be very difficult for them to turn it off and say, well, we're going to turn off this defense measure.
Right, exactly. What are you doing?
I'm sure part of the reason for the ambition.
Yeah, and it's possible at least to get a few batteries up here and there, just to say that, okay, well, a portion of the dome is operational and that counts. Well, so that may happen. So I'm definitely going to be watching it with bated breath.
Yeah. All right. If you're planning to rent an Airbnb to throw a Memorial Day rager, it's probably not going to happen.
Dang it.
I'm telling you, they're
on,
watching
man.
out for you. The rental platform says it's deploying an algorithm to detect likely holiday parties, and they're going to block those reservations. Some of the red flags that alert the system are trying to rent a place near where you already live. And you mentioned, like, for instance, Rolla.
Yeah.
They've got hotels there that they won't take reservations if you live within X number of miles out there, because they're like, yeah, we've been through that before between the colleges and the nearby military bases. Yeah, we know what to watch for on that.
The lady at the front desk described a situation where they had to fish the couch from the front out of the pool.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that's not happening anymore.
Also making reservations at the very last minute. Last year, the system blocked 50,000 bookings. 50,000 bookings.
Yikes.
Around the country. And some of them I'm sure were legit.
Yeah. It's like you got family coming. So
you got family coming in.
You want to get it on their behalf kind of thing. Yeah.
That sort of thing. But,
oh man,
that's where things are at this point.
That's why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, precisely. All right. The series is even at 1 game apiece after the Cardinals lose to the Tigers at Busch Stadium. Tuesday's final score 5-4. Nolan Arenado had a 2-run home run in the 5th inning. That series wraps up this afternoon. First pitch is at 12:15. Both MLB Network and FanDuel have that game. I'm going to check. I didn't check this morning here the standings right now because I didn't see what the Cubs did in the NL Central. Okay, nothing has changed. The Cardinals are still 2 games behind the Cubs. Cubs 29-20, Cardinals 27-22. But get this, in the last 10 games, both the Cardinals and the Cubs are 7-3. This is not the strongest division in baseball by any stretch, but both of those teams are playing some pretty tough baseball. This is kind of shaping up. It could be a really fun race come July and August if the teams keep playing like this. So interesting stuff here.
This Memorial Day weekend, bring your crew to Busch Stadium to see the Cardinals take on the D-backs. May 23rd to the 25th, catch great promotions all weekend long, including a Mason Win bobblehead and a Kid City Connect jersey giveaway. Kick off your summer with ballpark hot dogs, ice-cold beers, and entertainment for the whole family. Tickets are available at Cardinals.com. This is how summer is meant to be. See you at the ballpark.
This is Alec Burleson, St. Louis Cardinals, for the Lou.
Catch a Cardinals game on your next date night or friends night out. Whether it's love in the stands or laughter with your crew, nothing beats ballpark vibes under the lights. Cold drinks, great eats, and Cardinals baseball. Check out Friday Night Live at Busch Stadium and enjoy happy hour price food and drinks all game long. Every Friday home game. Get your tickets today at Cardinals.com and make memories that go beyond the scoreboard. Busch Stadium, where great nights begin.
For 3 generations, one family has ruled the road in quality asphalt paving. Ruby's King of the Road Hot Mix Asphalt Paving. Family owned and operated. We're your leading authority for driveways, lanes, and parking areas. No project is too small or too large. We cater to both residential and commercial needs with unbeatable quality at just $38 per square yard plus labor. Call 636-295-9949. 636-295-9949. Ruby's King of the Road Hot Mix Asphalt Paving. You save when we pave.
Great patio season to enjoy the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. There could be a House vote as soon as tonight on President Trump's big, beautiful budget bill. Members of the House Rules Committee worked overnight tweaking the legislation that's run into opposition from some Republicans. The president did some arm twisting the other day during a visit to the Hill.
House can just our president, and he delivered a clear message, and that message was get the job done.
House GOP Conference Chair Lisa McClain of Michigan. Ohio's Jim Jordan says the bill reflects Republican values.
We're the party that believes you should let mom and dads keep more of their money to chase down their goals and dreams. We're the party that believes you should actually have a secure border. This bill does it, as Chairman Green just pointed out. And we're the party that believes able-bodied adults, if they're going to get your money, should have to work.
The budget bill also includes $25 billion in seed money for the president's Golden Dome missile defense system. Mr. Trump says it would shield the continental U.S. from aerial attack. Questions abound following word of former President Biden's prostate cancer diagnosis.
Former President Joe Biden's last known prostate cancer screening was in 2014, and his office says he had never been diagnosed with the disease before last week. Biden's aides released the new details Tuesday amid skepticism that the disease could have progressed to an advanced stage without being detected. On Monday, President Trump suggested a cover-up.
That test is very standard.
While the cancer has spread to his bones and is no longer curable, it can possibly be controlled with treatment. I'm Ben Thomas.
An Orleans Parish, Louisiana jail worker accused of helping 10 inmates escape last Friday. 5 of the 10 fugitives have since been recaptured. Target sales tumbled in the first quarter. The discount retailer cutting its full year sales forecast. On Wall Street, stocks are in the red. More on these stories, townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. Look at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2025 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 7/20/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store activation of single line gold unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A big shift in our local weather pattern, bringing dry and beautiful weather for the next few days. We really need this. Mostly sunny and cooler today. The high at 73, breezy at times, with a west wind around 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30, though. Mostly clear tonight, down to 53 in St. Louis. Partly cloudy tomorrow, even a touch cooler, up to 69 for the high. 72 and dry Friday, but still looking at occasional rain for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com. Brian and his team, they're just amazing people. They're so proud of their operation. Pride in every installation. You can see that in the Google reviews. Pride in the great quality, pride in the great pricing, pride in the great variety, and pride in the fact that you can go into the store right off of Highway K in O'Fallon, or the store will come to you. That's the promise of O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com.
Hey, Tim Jones here. For 50 years, St. Louis homeowners have trusted one name with their outdoor dreams, Hydro Dynamics. From custom irrigation systems to stunning outdoor lighting, from expert drainage solutions to beautiful hardscapes, they transform ordinary yards into extraordinary dreamscapes. With certified experts that work with you to bring your vision to life, delivering unparalleled service every step of the way. Ready to make your dreamscape a reality? Visit hydrodynamicscore.com. That's hydrodynamicscore.com.
Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple saw stereo!
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin.
All right, the policy battles of today, they're not just in Congress, they're not just in the White House. As you know, they are in the courts as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I'm not sure. I don't think we know yet. Depends on whether the courts get it right as well. It is 7:05 right now. Don't forget our on-demand listening, our podcast. Like, for instance, that discussion we just had. That's going to end up being on the podcast later today. This discussion with Michael Neal from Landmark Legal Foundation going to be up there as well. Great ways to kind of chew on the information and the opinions expressed, but also share them with your, friends, neighbors, colleagues, people you agree with, people you disagree with, because, those who can really kind of take those steps in having the conversations that we're not having these days. All right. Joined now, like I said, by Mike O'Neill and our friends at the Landmark Legal Foundation. Mike, there is no way we're going to be able to get through all of the updates on all of the court cases between various entities and the president here, but there's one affecting the listening area, and that would be 20 Democratic-led states, led by Illinois. They're actually suing FEMA, and this is called Illinois versus FEMA. What they're arguing, as I understand this, and this was based on your account of it, is that they're saying FEMA is unlawfully or illegally requiring states to cooperate with ICE or risk losing federal funding. Now, what does FEMA have to do with this? Because it looks like a similar approach to like Title IX and other areas, which are separate cases. But what's FEMA's involvement, especially now that we've had tornadoes that went through our area just last Friday?
I think it's just in general, we're talking about federal agencies doing their job, essentially moving the ball in the direction that the president wants to move the ball. And the president made it as one of his main platforms for being elected, getting reelected, essentially, was to tackle this issue of illegal immigration, and that all federal agencies, including FEMA, are going to be obligated to participate in that endeavor, and to the extent to which they have communications with and are exposed to information whereby they come across information and data that they might be exposed to non-citizens or illegal immigrants, that is information that's to be shared across all platforms. One of the big problems with government agencies and our communications between agencies, we have this problem obviously in states, and it's particularly in blue states, gentlemen, where the state law enforcement officials have information, have reasonable suspicion or probable cause, whatever standard of proof you want to assign to it, that the individual they've apprehended or detained is not a citizen, and yet they don't cooperate with federal officials in the communication that individual is not a citizen and should be subject to removal and deportation. And that's one of the big problems. Of course, when President Trump came in, a lot of his executive orders were designed to break down those barriers and ensure communications across agencies, of course, federal agencies, and then also understand that state agencies are under the similar obligations. Look, when you're violating a federal law, state law enforcement officials and state officials have an obligation to inform federal officials of the violations of that law. That's why it runs contrary when you have these sanctuary cities, when you have sanctuary towns, when you have decided practice efforts, dictated efforts, particularly by leaderships of these jurisdictions, to say, don't cooperate with FEMA, don't cooperate with government agencies, because we're going to, quote unquote, protect illegal immigrants who are residing or within our respective jurisdictions. So this is an effort to break that down and ensure that there's lines of communication are open across all of the government agency platforms.
Good morning, Mike. Gabe here. Now, one of my concerns is that this possibly could set a precedent for let's say a federal government that is antagonistic, let's say, to the Second Amendment, to force states to comply with federal laws that kind of violate the Second Amendment of that state's citizens. Is there any danger to that kind of becoming part of the reality? We got to live with it.
I don't think so. I think when we're dealing with a constitutional right, I think you have a higher level of protections that are associated with it, and so I don't think that you have to be right and concerned with infringement on Second Amendment rights. Again, keep in mind here, what are we talking about? We're talking about the predicate of illegal immigrants residing in our country, within our borders, and there has to be some sort of level of identification. So if you're a sheriff's deputy in a respective county, and you have a reason to believe, there's a reasonable suspicion or there's a probable cause to believe that the individual you're currently detaining is not a citizen, you're obligated to communicate that to federal officials to ensure that there's open lines and that the federal laws can be enforced. So I don't think we're talking about just levels of protections here. I think when you're talking about the Second Amendment, I think that's much more an entrusted legal protection, constitutional protection. So I don't think that's necessarily on going to be something to be too concerned about.
We're visiting with Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. Okay, just within the last week, the Supreme Court case regarding the birthright citizenship. And so basically we've got multiple levels here. We've got the question over what does the 14th Amendment mean, but then we've also got the question as to who gets to say that. Can the president write an executive order? And then we've got the other side that says, can a judge block what the president interprets that and wants to implement? So you got a lot of moving parts here. Is there a range of what the Supreme Court could do with this? I mean, are they required to settle all of those questions?
Certainly not. No, essentially what you can expect them to settle is the issue of universal injunction, regarding the equitable power of judges to issue universal injunctions, specifically to speak on that narrow. It's narrow, but it's wide ranging and important, because obviously we have 675 judges. And we have, I think, over 40 now universal injunctions that have been issued. So that is a narrow issue, but of course it's been widely utilized by left-leaning blue judges to block the implementation of Donald Trump's agenda. And so that particular issue you are going to see ruling on. Now, regarding the issue of birthright citizenship and the language and the interpretation of those provisions within the 14th Amendment, you might see a little. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that you're going to see a substantive decision on that. I don't think you're going to get a merits-based decision on that yet. I think it's too early in the process. I think that the birthright citizenship issue was just a vehicle to get this issues regarding universal injunctions in front of the court and get an opinion on universal injunctions, because that's an immediate issue. The other issue regarding, of course, and that's also kind of a procedural issue and more of a judicial kind of housekeeping issue, that you want to have the Supreme Court issuing an opinion about what inferior judges should and should not be doing, right? Because that's one of the main roles of the Supreme Court. But the issue on how you interpret the 14th Amendment regarding birthright citizenship is a constitutional law interpretation that's more, I think, apt to be handled via a merits-based argument where you have a lot more complete briefing on the issue. So you could, Mike, honestly, you never know what they're going to do. You can't speak definitively on it. So they could dip their toe onto where they would most likely fall on the particular issue of birthright citizenship. But I think what you're really going to get is a decision pertaining to the power of a district court judge to issue universal injunctions from their equitable powers.
Okay. And then if that's what they do, could that affect the other cases involved because of all these other injunctions?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the point. To get this in front of the court before the end of this term, to somehow, so that you have some guidance for the lower courts, directions for the lower courts. I mean, it depends on how the wording of the opinion is termed, right? The court can be a little more squirrely with it and say guidance versus actual, this is what you're supposed to do. I would like to see a strong, of course, my particular opinion is on this, is I would like to see a very strong opinion saying, district courts, you do not have the equitable power to issue universal injunctions. You are limited to the parties before you. You can only enjoin the injunctions that you proffer or that you enter can only apply to the parties before you. In other words, so Mike Ferguson and Mike O'Neill, we're plaintiffs in front of a case, and we're asking the government to stop doing something. The district court judge can only say, okay, government, you can't do that to Mike Ferguson and Mike O'Neill. Any other people, I don't have any kind of jurisdictional authority to hear about, unless you go about and certify as a class, and that was a long discussion and oral argument. But that's another topic.
Now, do you think we're ever going to get any answers on the birthright citizenship while this president is off?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. I think so. If we don't get answers in this, it'll be teed up for next term, certainly.
Okay.
So yes, and you might get you might get an inkling of where they're headed on there. There might be some dicta in the opinion. Also, there might be a concurring opinion where a judge says, a particular group of justices or justice say something to the effect that I agree with the court's opinion regarding the power on universal injunctions. I weigh in to talk about birthright citizenship, and then they give you a sense of where they're going to go on that. So you're going to get probably a sense of where they are on that particular issue. I don't think you're going to get a controlling opinion on it, though, just because it hasn't been fully briefed and fully argued.
Will there have to be another lawsuit in order to make a full judgment on it?
I think they might be able to. They probably could just remand this regarding the context of universal injunctions. It could be this case, and it could get remanded back down on the issue of universal injunctions, and then come back up next term on a cert petition for the bigger issue, not the bigger issue, but the constitutional law. Well, it's all constitutional law. Excuse me, now to get into this, but the interpretation of the 14th Amendment issue.
All right. Mike O'Neill, Landmark Legal Foundation, landmarklegal.org is where we find you there. So many different updates on all sorts of these cases on there. We don't have time to get into all of them here, but Mike, really appreciate you tracking those. And yes, there's a lot of legal talk on here, but these are the things that are setting the direction and policy wise for the country for the next who knows how many years.
Absolutely. This is a really important time. It's a unique time for our country. I think we're dealing with a lot of issues, and we didn't talk about this, but all the issues regarding the 25th Amendment. I think I've talked to you about that, Mike, with the 25th Amendment and Joe Biden. I harken back to that long discussion we had a couple months ago on that. I think it's really apropos right now, again, about what's going on with the revelations, about the validity of the pardons. My particular issue I've been talking about a little bit off kilter, off the Supreme Court, is whether these pardons are valid that Joe Biden executed at the end of his term. So another conversation to have at another time, gentlemen.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I just read an article this morning that says it's likely that Ed Martin, I've known Ed for a long time, it looks like he's now investigating some of those pardons to see whether they were legitimately issued or not.
God bless him. I think that's a necessary thing to do. And I was just talking, just thinking about this, Mike, we really should revisit that 25th Amendment discussion we had. Whenever was that last year? I don't remember when it was, but that was incredibly an important discussion. Now, looking back on it, that I think we were right on the ball with it. Interesting times, though.
Yeah, I think we'll do that soon. I'll text you soon. I'll text you and Audrey soon on that.
Yep. Talk to you later, guys.
All
Y'all
right.
have a good
Thanks,
day.
Mike.
Thanks,
All
Mike.
right. 314-912-1019. Because, yeah, that's right. I'm glad Mike remembered that. We did have that discussion about the 25th Amendment. I think that was last year. Either last year or the year before. We were already here in this studio. I remember that. So it's been at least the last year and a half that we were talking, because there were legitimate 25th Amendment questions that were brought up. Right. About that. Man. All right. 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had another.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Mike Ferguson. Gabe Pfeiffer. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
News Talk STL.
It's brand new year. Tim Jones to tell you about the brand new things happening at The Hideout, famous for the Sunset Patio, 50 big screen TVs, live music and events, a fantastic game room, and of course, the food. The Hideout has a brand new menu featuring their world famous wings, the best handcrafted burgers, new items like the signature Sunset Dip and Dave's Chili, and a second location at Sugar Creek Golf Course in beautiful High Ridge. Experience The Hideout while enjoying a round of golf. Come in for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout, hideoutsportsbar.com, hideoutsportsbar.com. We'll definitely see you there.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor-fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
This is 1019 and 94.1.
You millennial Trump supporter. I listen to it like every day. Like, seriously, you get it.
News Talk STL.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
This is on my pregame playlist that I get fired up for my old man baseball games.
As it should be.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, this definitely sounds like something I can imagine, like a boxer or like WWF fighter running down to the ring. Listening to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the second song on my playlist that I like tonight. I've got a game this evening. I'll be in Baldwin to play in tonight. It's the song, but second song on my list.
So you're not a shuffle guy. You're a sequential.
I just listed in there. I'm sure you can shuffle it. I just hit play and just let it go. But this is the second one I loaded in there.
Wow.
That by the way is Eddie Van Halen's son.
Oh,
Wolfgang Van Halen. The band is called Mammoth WVH.
I was wondering what that stood for. Thanks for clarifying.
Wolfgang Van Halen. Mammoth was the original name that the band Van Halen was planning on using.
Oh.
And so then they obviously went with the last name, Van Halen. And so that's where that name came from.
Wow.
Mike knows all the things.
I know all of the useless things.
Well, you say that, but come this Flashback Friday,
we'll see.
We got people trying to stump you. So.
People are stepping up their game on
Be on
that.
your toes.
I'm trying there. All right, 7:21. It's 7:35. Okay. So you've heard me talk about Nutrition Stop a lot. And the guys here in the studio know that, like, when I have my lunch that I prepare, incredibly healthy, and it's from stuff I buy at Nutrition Stop, but we're not doing the whole salesy thing here. Ryan's coming in from Nutrition Stop. I wanted to bring him in because, RFK Jr.'s got the entire, Make America Healthy Again kind of thing. And there's different ways that we have the debates on that. Ryan was kind of jabbing me a little bit. I was talking to him last week and I'm like, yeah, I'm not a real big RFK Jr. fan. He's like, I am. And I'm like, okay. I mean, so he's all about, and I'm in the minority on the opinion. I get it.
Right.
I get it. So the question's going to come down to, what should the policies be? I'm not even going to ask Ryan about that. It's going to be a matter of, did you know that you could do this now?
Right.
So let's take a few minutes and how do you do it? If you've got questions, not even just about food, but if you got questions about anything else, I could not believe that how many things that are available now that are natural, that are removing toxins, but are still doing things like, cleaning, your counters and whatnot. So if you got questions, send them in or get ready to give me a call because Ryan's going to be here in about 10, 11 minutes, something like that. All right, 7:22 right now. I've been trying to scour the cleanup efforts around the area. I just saw a bunch of video that came across my computer regarding some of the cleanup efforts in Clayton. And of course, really what they're dealing with there more than anything are the giant trees that were uprooted and dropped over. There's home damage and there's tree damage. So there's just a lot of that tedious chainsaw kind of work that's happening right now. Now you get into North City where the cleanup is what was left of the homes that were partially or completely destroyed as well. So you've got all of that efforts going on. As of right now, in a couple of the districts in the city, they still have curfews in place.
Right.
Now, I've got very mixed feelings on that. I don't think the police should be allowed to just declare a curfew and say you're not allowed to walk down the street. But
we understand the whole looting issue.
We're going to save that. We're going to save that debate for another day because there have been problems with looting. Despite what the police chief said to the media, there have been issues with looting in the city. Now, they have not been as much as I thought they were going to be, thank God. But it did happen.
Well, and not just that, but they're now investigating an arson that happened at a car wash of all places.
That's right.
Was in an area that is currently without power that has been affected by the tornado. So
that's so bizarre because if it was without power, it's obviously not an electrical thing.
Yeah. No, and they found, I guess, materials from what I'm looking at with First Alert 4. They found materials consistent with an intentional arson attempt. So, I mean,
why would you try to burn down or blow up a car wash?
It's like, what did the car wash do to you?
Right. Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, and you know that if a fire starts there, you literally put in a couple quarters and then the electric's gone.
Power's gone. Maybe that's why they did it.
Maybe
they thought it would be ironic.
I mean, is there a big anti-car wash movement in
the anti-car?
I mean,
down with clean cars.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but when you look at what's happening, here's the thing. What happens in the news cycle is that all of the slap you in the face news coverage, the people crying, the buildings collapsed, all of those things hold our attention because we Americans generally have the attention span of a fruit fly.
Yeah.
And they hold your attention for a couple of days. Now it's all in the media business. It's all follow-up. And people start to move on to other things. The needs are we're just now figuring out how big these needs are. And so then also what happens is, for instance, Josh Hawley used a platform in a hearing and really grilled Secretary Kristi Noem about we need to expedite aid to the St. Louis area, knowing that FEMA's got a lousy track record in the last couple of years, and she committed to doing that. And Josh Hawley, frankly, is a very powerful senator, has become very, very influential, and he'll probably deliver it. But one of the things that we see that happens is once the politicians brag about the federal aid coming in or brag about the state aid coming in, people here in our own community tend to go, okay, well, I guess you don't need me anymore.
Yeah, they back off.
That's not true.
Yeah,
at all.
Your help is still needed.
It's crucial that we do that, which is why we've got so many resources.
Yeah, and to that end, on NewsTalkSTL.com, you can find a listing of ways that you can help. There's a link down in under the local news tab, help those affected by the May 16th tornado. And once you click on that, there's a listing of organizations and people that will kind of help organize all of that for you. So, you got the United Way, Salvation Army, Missouri State Emergency Management Association.
And then-
All of those are kind of.
And then you've got the local ones too. You've got Restore STL, you've
Mhm.
got Love the Lou, you've got, a variety of those things that are sometimes working in conjunction with those others, or they're working in a very, very hyper local way, but they don't have a marketing and public resources or public relations budget, but know that they are there.
Right.
As well. And, a lot of the ways that, like for instance, church groups are, I think, some of the most common that are getting together teams to say, okay, we're going to bring somebody in. We can do the work for a day, or we can do the work for a couple days, or whatever the case is. A lot of churches are setting up, with the Red Cross and some of the others setting up shelters and, room for the cots, because there are people who can't get into their homes, especially as the temperatures. Now it's going to be cooler this week, but when you're in the mid 80s, like it was last week, you don't have air conditioning. You're going to feel it pretty fast in a brick house.
The inside will get hot real fast. And of course, if your home isn't livable, even on one of the floors,
Right.
well, where are you going to go? You're
Right.
going to stay in a hotel for weeks on end as the insurance company figures out whether they can rebuild your house. Of course not. So this is one of those crucial situations here. My church is going to be one of those participating, because we've got a large gym that we can use to set up for these things. So Red Cross is going to come through and assess the situation and see if they can assign people for us. And so that's one way you can help. If you're involved in your church, get them connected to the Red Cross. They absolutely need people with room.
Right, because a lot of times people are saying, I just don't know what to do, and we watch. We move from I'm going to help to, well, I'm just going to see how it goes.
Right.
And that's one of the dangers. Now, again, I'm not knocking the federal aid or the state aid. It's obviously there's a place for it. There's a role for it, because this is a large scale thing and a lot of people affected.
That's why we have these agencies.
It's why we have, but there's nothing that's going to replace that hyper local, person to person. There is still a need. There is still a massive need for that. So I just kind of want to remind everybody, because I've just seen it year after year after year after year, and I'm guilty of it. Well, what's next? What's in the news cycle? The next shiny thing? Well, we've already talked about that. And that's what happens is, as cold as this sounds, we move on.
Yeah. When it falls out of the news cycle, then it also falls out of the public consciousness, and they stop helping, even though the help is going to be required for possibly months, if not years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it took Joplin 20 years to rebuild. Now, this was not the size and the scope of Joplin,
right?
But it will take years, and there are some people who simply are going to have to leave.
Yeah,
because it's not cost effective to repair a home or to build another one, or they may have to go find someplace to rent. There are some people who are going to have to leave because just of the conditions on this. All right. RFK Jr. says, let's make America healthy again. You don't have to wait for government to do that for you. You got some questions on it? I mean, I think a lot of people, regardless of the debate over all of the Maha, what's the way to pronounce it?
I say Maha.
Maha?
Mm-hmm.
Maha. You got all the bad, but I'm glad it's putting the spotlight on, okay, but how do you actually do it?
Right.
So you got questions? We got the experts going to be here right around 7:34 on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Yeah, be careful about talking about waiting on government. You might upset some Cash Patel fans.
Oh,
here we go.
Yeah.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A big shift in our local weather pattern, bringing dry and beautiful weather for the next few days. We really need this. Mostly sunny and cooler today. The high at 73, breezy at times, with west wind around 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30, though. Mostly clear tonight, down to 53 in St. Louis. Partly cloudy tomorrow, even a touch cooler, up to 69 for the high. 72 and dry Friday, but still looking at occasional rain for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. Means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
As far as I'm concerned, there are no sacred cows. So I'm focusing on the FBI Director Kash Patel, his second in command, Dan Bongino. I not only respect but like Patel and Bongino, but in my view, they are failing on a major issue involving the death investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. Patel said, "You know a suicide when you see it." That's what this was. Granted, he has more experience in such a case than I do, but I have seen cases that appeared to be suicide. Turned out they weren't. Bongino said, "I've seen the whole file. He killed himself." Again, Bongino has more experience. But here is the point. Why is the entire file, not being made public? You suggested to us you wouldn't make it public. I expect you to take out names of victims, but I want to see the whole file. Who was on duty? Who was doing what? What cameras were operating? What cameras weren't? And why? I'm not claiming Kash nor Bongino are hiding anything, but unless the entire file is open to the public, like I said, there are no sacred cows.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Attention, reptile lovers. Ready to discover your next scaly friend? Welcome to the Show Me Reptile Shop, your ultimate destination for fascinating reptiles and exotic pets, with 3 convenient locations in Troy, St. Peters, and Springfield. We have an amazing selection of snakes, lizards, turtles, and more. Whether you're a seasoned herpetologist or a curious beginner, we've got the perfect pet waiting for you. Show Me Reptile Shop. Visit us in Troy, St. Peters, or Springfield, and online at showmereptileshow.com.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they're very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They're in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Just the convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime,
everywhere.
Anywhere.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, so I get jabbed a little bit over the whole RFK debate.
we poke at you here and there.
We do because I, on him in particular, I'm not a fan. But I have been saying I'm really glad that we've got this new spotlight on being healthy. And I've been saying for years that the older I get, and I've gone through this journey of health. From, I can eat whatever I want. And as long as I go work out and do a little exercise, I'll be fine. Well, having a heart attack when I was 40 convinced me that was probably not the best approach.
Probably not.
Turns out that was not the best approach. And then it's like, okay, well, now I'm just going to look at the labels and get low fat stuff, but it was all processed crap, and then I'm like, okay, well, then I'm just going to do like all sports nutrition stuff. Again, there's some good stuff there. It was all processed. And then I'm like, maybe there's something to this natural thing. And that's the last several years. So one of the things that the RFK Jr. Presence is doing now, I've got issues with his policy approach and the way, but a lot of people disagree with me on that. That's fair. Is that he's putting the spotlight on, but why are we putting stuff into our bodies that has all the garbage in it?
Right.
In the first place, and the toxins in it. And so there's a new sort of approach on that. Ryan Mastoni from Nutrition Stop. You hear me talking about them a lot. You're here with us in studio. And, the times I hang out over there, I probably talk their ear off too much as it is, Ryan. So I appreciate you being here so I can talk your ear off here as well. But that's one of the things that's been different and kind of fun, like with you and your team there, is that, first of all, you guys know what the hell you're talking about. But secondly, you're really, really passionate about this. But let me start with that kind of like the 30,000 foot level. You don't have to get into politics. You don't have to get into policy or the Republican, Democrat, or all that kind of stuff. But the focus now is like, wait a minute, there's a lot of stuff that we're putting into our bodies that's not supposed to be in our bodies. Our body doesn't want that. It's not supposed to be there, but we've got it in for whatever reasons, commercial reasons. The options are there to not do that. You just got to look for them.
Right.
So,
Right.
And that's, I know what you specialize in.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing as a store since 1986. We've really been focusing on just cleaning up ingredients and removing the nonsense. Our bodies respond to food. The more synthetic and more adulterated it is, the more the body doesn't recognize what it is. So just purifying the foods and simplifying it, reading your ingredient labels. That's the main thing, is just making sure you're eating real food, whether you want to go organic or not organic, just making sure there's just no bullshit in there.
Yeah. And we're not supposed to use that word.
Sorry.
But anyway.
Good night, everybody.
Exactly. But that's absolutely true is with that. So let's talk about how we do that. I was actually really surprised at how big your store is, and so you got this entire grocery area and there's a lot of nutritional supplements, which I'm using some, because like at night I found myself snacking because I got a little hungry. So I got one of those Sun Warrior protein meal replacement shakes, and that's what I'm sipping on at night, to do that. But a lot of people are saying, okay, but I want somebody to make sure the whole, what's the term we chain, the supply chain. I want the supply chain to do it for me. Well, even if you get the policies that you want, that's not going to happen overnight. And honestly, I think the commercial demand isn't going to allow it anyway. So it's really up to us. So if somebody says, I don't care about the politics of it, I just want me and my kids to be healthy. Right. I just want to be able to go to my doctor and say, do I really still need all these drugs? How do we get from where we are? What are some of those first steps we can do?
Really, it's just reading ingredient labels. It's very simple. That's what I think our store really specializes in, and everybody that works there has been reading labels for years.
Yeah.
And getting clean water, whether it's spring water or really good filtered water. It's just the basics. Start with good, clean quality protein, good water, and then vegetables and fruit after that.
Yeah, so we don't have to like overthink it then.
Nope.
What should we be looking for in the label reading? I mean, because sometimes the list of ingredients includes things that a lot of people don't recognize. They're not going to be able to tell what that is. Is that basically the red flag? Like, okay, put it down and move on?
Basically, if you can't pronounce the word, or if it really looks synthetic or man-made, or like if it's a chemical, then that's what it is. If you don't recognize what it is, then just don't eat it. There's maybe some great exception with that if they're fortifying it with some vitamins or something, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So we got a couple questions coming in here. Somebody is saying, okay, what's the deal with seed oils? And then I'm going to probably mispronounce this. Excitotoxins. Do you know what those are? I don't even know what those are.
Well, I would imagine that's something hitting the brain or affecting maybe even the endocrine system.
Okay.
But I can speak to seed oils.
Yeah, let's because there's a lot of people talking about that right now. Yeah.
Sure. It's a long growing conversation. I've been talking about this for over 10 years. In short, omega-6s are rich in seed oils. The omega-6s, our body uses them to produce inflammatory hormones and markers in the body. In short, our bodies need the omega-3s. That's why that's a large conversation. Those come in and turn off those pro-inflammatory hormones and markers that are coming on from the omega-6s. So aside from just the industrial seed aspect, the oil likely being rancid at the time of your eating it because of manufacturing processes, And the host of inflammation that comes with that, the fat ratio on it is just too high, and those pro-inflammatory compounds that really offset the body.
So are there good seed oils and bad seed oils, or are seed oils just something we should be careful of in general?
There's certainly exceptions within that. Olive oil is really great. Coconut oil is really great. Butter, lard, ghee, those sorts of things are really great. Avocado oil is great. It's more like the peanut, the cottonseed, the soy, the safflower, the canola, all those things.
So the ones we fry everything in.
Yeah,
Okay.
precisely. Well, for instance, you mentioned the inflammation, and I mean, everybody knows I play old man baseball. I get a little bit of inflammation in my throwing shoulder. Now that those things that you gave me, the kind of the preventative thing that's making a difference on that. But if somebody's like my knees, my neck, my shoulder, whatever it is, diet can have something to do with this.
Yeah, certainly. And that really, like the omega, that goes back into this conversation versus omega-6 versus 3, getting the proper ratio and balance. Just if you know you're eating a large amount of omega-6 meal, counter it with your next meal with a large omega-3 meal, whether it's fish oil and flax seeds in, chia seeds in, hemp seeds in. But our bodies, again, use those sixes to produce pro-inflammation. So if you're under a constant state of eating sixes, your body's going to be under a constant state of inflammatory attack and inflammation. So if you're working out and you're active, incorporating a little bit of fish oil, making sure you're getting those flax seeds in every day. That's really important. Curcumin's really effective. It's actually a really powerful 1-2 punch is putting omega-3 and curcumin
that's what you
together.
suggested for me. Was that? Yeah, and that's what I'm using that now.
Yeah.
So I guess in addition to what we put in our bodies, there's also sort of environmental factors too, right? Because Mike mentioned the idea of these natural cleaners, and I guess that has impacts on our personal health
Which
as well,
I had
right?
no clue even existed. I just thought that was one of those things. It's like, well, I got to clean the countertops. I guess I need to put the chemicals on there because that's what you have to do to clean, but apparently not.
Right. No, there's a whole market for natural cleaning products. We certainly have them at our store, Nutrition Stop. But there's a whole host of ingredients you really should be avoiding that's in most conventional home goods. And we have a few catered selections of laundry detergent and dish soap and bug spray even.
Right. And so that's something that I learned, like, what was it, Friday or Saturday? We were hanging out.
Yeah, last Friday.
Yeah, last Friday that I was in there, and you're like, hey, look at this. I'm like, I had no idea that this actually existed.
Yeah, fragrances and perfumes. I mean, those are most of those are extremely toxic. You breathe that in, and it's toxins. It's going to affect your endocrine systems. It's going to affect your neurochemistry. It's going to cause allergies. That's a growing thing. Folks are always coming in with allergies. When I was growing up, I had horrible cat allergies. I had horrible allergies every fall. Over time, me cleaning my diet up and my lifestyle. Like I have 4 cats at home now.
Yeah, I actually had a question about allergies because they seem to be a lot more prevalent right now. People have developing weird food allergies, and they seem to be allergic to everything. What do you think is kind of contributing to it just seems like a demographic rise in the whole thing?
It's everything we've been talking about. It's certainly we're going to have an increase when the seasons hit, when the trees are putting off more pollen and everything's coming in bloom. That's certainly going to be a rise in allergies. But the liver and the body can only handle so much. So it can only handle so much inflammatory histamine response, and then you're just going to have those symptoms come out. So the cleaner your diet is, the cleaner your lifestyle is, your body will be able to handle that seasonal onslaught and cope with it. And then there's natural foods, eating lemons, eating bioflavonoids, eating more citrus fruits. Those are all rich in different compounds, quercetin, that are really good for it.
We're getting a lot of comments here. I didn't tell you I was going to do this. Do you have a few minutes to hang out after this? Okay, let's go ahead and hit the information segment here, and then I've got some more questions. We've got Ryan Mastoni from Nutrition Stop, and you can learn. Well, first of all, you can find them easily at nutritionstop.com. We've actually been sharing and retweeting some of your all's posts as well that you're putting out there, because you've also got not just food, but you guys like some of the classes and active things that people can do in the building. I want to ask you about that as well, but I want to follow up on a couple of the things that have come in on social media as well.
Sure.
Another RX Watch, brought to you by Underlaw.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right. A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Hi, I'm Helene Tobler, culinary nutritionist at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Here we do practical wellness. Dr. Randy and I have a common sense approach to healthcare. My passion is helping our members enjoy better nutrition because food is medicine. We approach problems with a lifestyle foundation and cutting-edge medical tool chest. At Body of Health, it's about being your healthiest you. If you want to experience healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
Okay, I was gonna do something else, but we'll do that in 8:20 here. I've got
right.
Ryan Mastoni from Nutrition Stop in with us, and I started the conversation by saying, health and our foods and the natural stuff and the toxins, all of that's in the news right now, and we've had the debates over, and we're still having the debates over
policy.
what policy is, what government should do, what government shouldn't do, and all that sort of thing. But I love the fact that it's put the spotlight on, hey, that may taste good, but you're putting toxins in your body. There are other things that taste good that won't put toxins in your body here. Let me see here. Let me find the question here. Okay, so
because we're getting a lot of response on social media.
Yeah, we really are right now.
Comment on that.
Yeah.
The things tasting good. There are probiotics in our body. There are friendly bacteria in our body, and then there's bad bacteria in our body. If we're used to eating bad food, the chemicals in the food, those bad bacteria colonize and require and have a taste for that food, then you have a taste for that food. So if you're trying to switch and make the switch to natural and it's hard to and it doesn't taste as good, just give it time to allow the friendly bacteria and maybe take a probiotic to help recolonize the good bacteria to really have a taste and one for that food. Because really that's what's craving the food a lot of times is the bacteria.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
But I did. But it's funny you say that because
but
that's the story that I had, because I'm like, okay, I got to get serious about this. And I got to stop with the fast food, and I got to, and I do my food prep. It took a while before I wasn't craving the bad stuff anymore. Okay. So Amy on Rumble, she said, I've heard the carnivore diet is great for inflammation, but I need to research it farther. And then 101 straight up says humans are omnivores. I believe we need that kind of a varied diet. So there's always a fad when it comes to nutrition. So when you've got the so-called carnivore diet, kind of give the 10-second explanation of what that is. And then, whether or not that's something everybody should be pursuing, or whether that's like, maybe it's good for you, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's body is really going to be different, and not every situation is going to be the same. However, carnivore diet would be strictly carnivore. There wouldn't be any nuts, grains, or seeds, or any vegetables within that. A lot of folks are doing keto nowadays, which is mostly carnivore, but then you can add in some fats and some nuts and such and that sort of thing. As someone that's been in this industry a long time, I did go through a vegan spell for a while. I certainly am back to eating meat. I love grass-fed beef. My body feels really good on grass-fed red meat, beef, bison, and elk.
Oh, I can attest to the bison there. I love the bison I get
really
from
good.
you. It's so good.
Yeah,
So good.
It's really good. And those folks are doing it right with regenerative agriculture too. But my wife has an ongoing battle with Crohn's. She's been dealing with this for 25, 30 years, which I can go down a wormhole about that conversation. But one thing she's tried recently was not eating vegetables and eating more meat, and her inflammation has gone down everywhere. Every
See,
once in a
that's-
while, she would have spikes and even rheumatoid arthritis within that autoimmune thing that was triggering.
That's
for her.
almost counterintuitive.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, from
wild.
what we're told earlier. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not hearing you say the vegetables are bad or
No,
anything,
not
but
at all.
you need to
It's
figure out
just
what works for you.
What works for you? There are certain ones like kale was triggering her, salad greens were triggering her, which is crazy. I do well on them, but it's
Yeah.
triggering for her.
All right. So let me ask you good now, in addition to like the food there. So if you go to, and I hope you do go to the store, it's right off Mexico Road. So it's really close to Cave Springs and Mexico Road. So easy to find just off of I-70. Take the Cave Springs exit, turn right on Mexico Road. It's right there. You can't miss it. So you've got the grocery area, you've got the frozen area. Like for instance, I picked up the bison and the elk the other day, and that's what I'm having for lunch and dinner all this week is making all that, and it's delicious. You've also got the nutrition supplements, the vitamins, the minerals, the proteins, and all that kind of stuff. Everything. But you've also got this big space that's wide open in there, and you may think, wait a minute, you're a retail operation, you're supposed to fill that with stuff to sell.
Yeah.
But you're using that to get people learning and doing stuff. Tell me about some of the stuff that's going on there.
Yeah, I've traveled and seen hundreds of health food stores, and really what stood out the most with ones that did the best were the ones that offered community and engagement. So we're keeping a portion of our store open for classes, workshops, seminars, yoga classes, just a host of different things, sound baths, all sorts of just different ideas and things we're really interested in. Last weekend, we had a senior nutrition class and a chair yoga class for seniors, and we're really trying to engage that community. This weekend, on the other side of it, we're having like a deep breath work session followed by a sound bath.
What's a sound bath? Tell me what that is.
So this weekend will be like intense breathing exercise, which really lets you get into your body and work through some emotions if you're open to it. And then the sound bath, someone else comes in and does like gongs and chimes and stuff, and all that has like energy and frequency, which just feels good.
Oh, okay.
We've actually talked about some healing procedures that have been developed using sound waves. Remember, in some of our good news stories has actually validated that the science behind sound waves, certain frequencies can actually have healing effects on the body. So, I mean, guys, as you're listening, we're not talking quackery or anything like that. There's actually some science behind this.
There is.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got that going on here. Skincare products.
We've got a really good selection. We don't have a lot of anything within every category, but we have really good curated selections within every category. Really clean options. Some using hydrosols, which are just plant waters with just oil serums, rosehip, argan oil, shea butters. Just keeping it clean and keeping it simple. And our employees really know how to have a detailed conversation just on restoring the acid mantle on the skin and repairing the skin.
Okay, so tell me how, speaking of your team, your employees, how do we use them to set and reach these nutrition goals? Because I mean, it sounds really complicated, but what I've found is find out the most simple, basic things and just do that start with. So we go in and we talk to Laura or whoever's there. How do we use people like you to help us get to where we need to be and improve our health?
That's a loaded question. But, we're really it's everybody's lifestyle is going to be different, but really just starting simple. I'm big on clean water. That was the first thing I jumped into, is making sure I had clean drinking water. And then I started with breakfast or lunch. I had a salad every day, or I ate yogurt every morning, whatever it was. And just starting small. And that's what all of our staff is really just going to encourage you to do. Start small and start wherever you're at. What works for you.
Yeah, because I mean, there are some places you'll go in and they're hired to basically stock the shelves and run the cash register. Your team answers questions.
They know stuff.
And they know stuff.
Yeah, everyone in the store has been in the industry for a long time. One of my employees has been at the store for 25 years. A couple of the others have been in the industry 10, 15 years. We're just well-rounded and have a lot of tools in the tool belt.
Yeah, same. And that's the thing that every time I leave there, I'm like, I there's something that I've said I didn't know that. But that's the thing is, this isn't like, a hippy dippy thing. I mean, just the older I get, and I've described it as kind of a journey. I've gone from the I'm, kind of, invincible because I'm young and stupid, and as long as I lift weights, I'm fine, to the, okay, well, I'll just read the numbers on the label, this percentage of it. And then I'm to the point now, this place in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm doing the natural stuff. And the more I get into it, the more that I'm finding it's really working for me. So 30 seconds left or so here, Ryan. Nutrition Stop, the website, the social media, all of that, because I would encourage people to connect and follow along.
Yeah, follow us on Facebook. It's our strongest voice. It's easier for us to use. We certainly email, but Facebook's strong. Check our website. That doesn't get updated as much. Just come to the store is the best I can say.
Yeah.
You can call us, but really just come to the store. The phone rings a lot, so just please come to the store if you're going to check us out.
So once again, nutritionstop.com, pretty easy to find there. And it's on Mexico Road right off Cave Springs.
Yep. And real quick, it's a far ways, but June 28th, the last Saturday in June, we're having a barbecue tasting, so come out for that.
Oh boy,
we're in.
You said the magic words.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Ryan, appreciate you coming in, man.
Thank
Thanks
you
so much.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for Patriot Heating and Cooling. When your home's comfort is on the line, you need a team you can trust. That's why I recommend Patriot Heating and Cooling, St. Louis's trusted team of HVAC experts. These pros make customer service their number one priority, whether it's a summer breakdown or a winter emergency. Booking your service couldn't be easier. Just visit callpatriothvacstl.com or call 314-527-2722. Patriot Heating and Cooling. Comfort every day, the Patriot way.
When it comes to spending your tax dollars and teaching your kids, governments and school districts should be an open book. But in Missouri, that's not always the case. Recently, the Show Me Institute sent out a sunshine law request to school districts across the state, asking for information on whether certain topics are being taught. Specifically, a controversial one called critical race theory was included in the list. Many districts didn't respond. Some wanted to charge large fees to process the documents. Lee's Summit outside Kansas City wanted over $35,000. A rural district, Morgan County, wanted $15,000. The Sunshine Law does allow charging a reasonable fee for sending out information, but there's nothing reasonable about $35,000 or $15,000. These districts should want to be transparent about their curriculums. Taxpayers deserve to know what their kids are being taught. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
On townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Around New Orleans are on edge this morning. 5 of the 10 inmates who broke out of jail last week remain at large. And now a jail worker is accused of helping the men get away.
Authorities say they've arrested an Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office employee who they believe helped 10 inmates escape were not immediately revealed. The inmates escaped through a hole in a wall behind a toilet in the early hours of Friday at the Orleans Justice Center. Since the escape, Sheriff Susan Hudson has pointed to long-standing deficiencies such as faulty locks and staffing shortages. But a growing number of state and local officials have blamed her for failing to keep the inmates locked up. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
They burned the midnight oil on Capitol Hill. House Republicans preparing President Trump's massive budget bill for a vote, possibly as soon as today. Along with extending the Trump tax cuts, the bill would partially fund the president's Golden Dome missile defense system. A testy exchange between Secretary of State Rubio and Democrat Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. The dust-up spurred in part by the administration granting refugee status to a group of white South African farmers.
You are entitled to entrance as a refugee if you demonstrate a well-justified
fear of persecution.
No, you're not entitled.
So
You're
can
allowed.
you have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin? Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you
know
the fact they're
I'm
white.
just
And that's
asking
what's
to
coming.
say that would be unacceptable.
Well, no,
That
I would say that
seem
the
to
United
be
States,
a very easy
the
thing
United
to say.
States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United
Even
States.
based on the color of somebody's skin.
No one's. You're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These
You're
are people whose
refusing to
farms were being
acknowledge
burned down and they were killed because of the
even-handed.
color of their skin.
The administration says the farmers have been the victims of genocide, the charge denied by the South African government. Watching Wall Street ahead of the opening bell, the Dow futures down 368 points. NASDAQ futures off 146. More on these stories at townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
I'm an artist and I'm in my studio. I listen to the radio all day and I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor. And I've got pain in my neck and it's getting worse. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later, I've got much better range of motion. If you're experiencing pain at a certain point in life, I would get Relief Factor.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2025 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 7/20/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store activation of single line gold unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A big shift in our local weather pattern, bringing dry and beautiful weather for the next few days. We really need this. Mostly sunny and cooler today. The high at 73, breezy at times, with a west wind around 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30, though. Mostly clear tonight, down to 53 in St. Louis. Partly cloudy tomorrow, even a touch cooler, up to 69 for the high. 72 and dry Friday, but still looking at occasional rain for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. At your First Alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Anthony's Produce is your one-stop shop for locally grown produce. Best tomatoes in town, Amish grown. Come, check out a huge selection of annuals, tropicals, hanging baskets, and perennials. Have some chocolate-covered strawberries or a fruit bouquet delivered by us. Special events coming up? Let Anthony's make your fruit and vegetable trays an easy project. Order from us. It's our specialty. 7 days a week, Monday to Saturday, 7 to 6:30, and Sundays, 8 to 5. 701 Jungerman Road and at anthonysproduce.com.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. 3 big hours of great tunes from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. Plus bits and pieces that'll take you back to the best years of your past.
The Memorial Day weekend also means the unofficial start of summer, so we'll roll every summer song we can find, and they won't be the same ones you hear all the time. Plus, it's our A-list interview with the director of Saving Private Ryan, Steven Spielberg, presented by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
Triple Darius!
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
You know, you don't often get a 2 Kofifi dance day.
Yeah, that's a 2-day.
That's a 2 Kofifi dance day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think after all of that health talk, we were feeling a little extra energized, and we just needed to shake it out.
You know, we're getting so many responses on this. I mean,
So much
and
reaction.
It's funny because at one point years ago, I thought I was being healthy because I bought a brand of prepared, prepackaged, processed foods that had the word healthy on it.
Right. It
I'm
says,
like, so therefore it's healthy.
It says healthy choice. So
Right.
this is the healthy choice.
Yes,
clearly.
And it clearly was. You know, look, the fat content is here. I'm good, and I didn't bother.
It's very low calories.
But the funny part is that like I just showed Ryan because I buy my meat from Nutrition Stop.
Right.
You know, and then this week I'm going back and forth between bison and elk.
Mhm.
And it's freaking delicious.
Yeah.
But I'm not that knowledgeable. I'm not certified in anything. I haven't done any core, but I've learned enough to say, okay, go back to the basics and start there. And it works. I mean, it's working for me.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, you can't argue with results, right? And
Right.
that's kind of a big deal. And one of the things that he that he started with, one of the things that he said earlier that was really good was he's like, just start with something small.
Yeah,
just make a small change, because I think a lot of people think they feel as though the way we discuss these things, okay, now you have to do an entire transformation of everything you do. Everything you eat is like, oh, you like clear out your refrigerator. I mean, that's the way some of these influencers make it sound too. It's like you got to clear out your refrigerator. This is, you get some guy standing in front of a refrigerator. This has this in it. And this has this in it. I mean, it's flashy, and I guess it kind of gets people's attention. But in real life, when you're trying to make changes and you're busy, you work 40 to 60 hours a week. It's like I don't have time for all
But here's
this.
the thing: is it really does make a difference. And I've already, since I've been doing this, my doctor has actually said, okay, we're probably going to have to either take you off some of the high blood pressure stuff or really lower it.
Right.
I mean, so it's very tangible money and health savings devices.
Yeah.
I still don't like RFK Jr. All right. So here in just a little bit, let's get to the.
But we love Ryan though.
That's right. Yes. Let's get to the bigger question here. Why was a mentally and gender confused person in charge of something so important in the city in the first place? Basic details here in a minute. Let's go into depth on this at 8:20. President Trump announces a new national defense system that's being built now. And the Cardinals, if you want to catch them, then call into sick on work, or just tell them that you're wink, wink, nudge, nudge, working from home. I won't tell on you. Let's go ahead and do some news dump here.
The morning news dump brought to you by Common Sense Rentals.
Wake up, America. It all worked out. They got all the news. The morning news dump.
I got to tell you, the discussion on Rumble right now that came from our discussion with Ryan is really robust, and there is some unique stuff on food being discussed right there. It's
absolutely.
That's good stuff.
I like pork rinds too. Sorry.
Pork rinds.
It's in the discussion. I'm just saying they're talking about it. I happen to. No, it's not healthy.
Oh.
It's not. Don't do that.
I can't get enough of them Mountain oysters, baby.
Oh, jeez.
Don't do it.
Ryan's going to come back in here and
He's gonna hurt us.
smack me for this. Okay. All right. The commissioner in charge of the city's emergency management is now on the way out. Mayor Kara Spencer placing Sarah Russell on paid leave, and the mayor has appointed an interim emergency management commissioner while the search for a permanent replacement is ongoing. Basically, Sarah Russell is being shown the outdoor. She's being shown the exit. Russell and her team were not in the emergency management office where the warning siren activation system is when Friday's tornado struck the Central West End and North City, killing 5 people. Her team and her instead were at an office workshop in another building. Okay, so 8:20. I'm not even getting into the investigation of what happened and what did. We told you about that yesterday. It did not take long for them to investigate what happened. I've got a much bigger picture question here that I'm pretty sure that you're not going to hear this on NPR. I guarantee you that. I don't think you're going to hear this on probably even the other conservative media here.
They're not stepping on this landmine like the way we
they're
are.
not. No, I'm diving. I'm swan diving onto the landmine.
We're
here.
doing a jig on the thing.
Yes, I'm absolutely, because this is a matter of, we've talked so much about the fact that the whole gender ideology thing, and she's the they them type of person, and we've been saying this shows you something's wrong. This shows you something's wrong with the judgment. Why was somebody in a position to make potentially life and death affecting decisions when they are that confused personally? So 8:20, we're going to open that can of worms. All right. Speaking of some of those, gender confused, in Illinois, there's now another one of these cases where a boy says, no, I'm a girl. I want to compete with girls in sports at a middle school track meet. You've probably seen the videos on social media.
Yeah.
And the boy just leaves all these girls in the dust.
Of course.
I mean, did you see the video? It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Of course. 7th grade boy who wants to go by a girl's name. They do the track meet and he just blows them away, as you would expect.
Yeah.
Especially at that age. And so what's happened now is our friend Shannon Adcock from Awake, Illinois, and Shannon's on with us. She comes on about once a month or so. She was on Fox News last night on America Reports because they filed a federal civil rights complaint against that school district.
I'm sorry for this boy that he has national attention on him, but the people entrusted with him exploited him the minute they said, sure, you can, as a boy, compete on the girls' team. And now we're at where we're at. We're having to file this federal complaint with the hopes that federal funds will be frozen and we can protect these children.
And so Illinois, what they call the human rights laws, those are basically designed to indoctrinate and to inject that ideology into young people, you know, and so now that's at odds with the federal government and Title IX. So that complaint's been filed. That's probably going to work its way up through the courts at some point to decide. But we can win this.
Absolutely.
And you may say, well, that's just because you don't like, you know, trans people. Well, first of all, there is no such thing as a transgender person. That does not exist.
Nope, it's not a thing.
It is not.
Because you can't transition between genders.
You cannot. You can mutilate yourself, but there is no such thing as transgender. It just simply, I don't care what anybody in a white coat says, that doesn't happen. But we're now seeing the dangers and the harms and everything that goes with that. So, you know, Shannon Adcock's doing the heavy lifting in Illinois. All right. Secretary Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, and President Trump announcing details on the new Golden Dome missile protection plan for the nation. The president says that this is something that could be actually up and running and operational sooner than you might think.
This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term.
Okay, so 3 years, basically, $25 billion from next year's defense budget is earmarked for that project. Some congressional budgeters say it could be $500 billion over the next 2 decades. No question, this is going to be very, very expensive. And we do need to cut spending. But when it comes to national defense, when technology is advancing so much around the entire world, I just got to say, I think President Trump is right about this, and I think this is a worthwhile project to pursue.
Absolutely. Now, people might argue about the need for it, you know, considering we're not exactly in the same sort of Cold War with Russia as we used to be. The threat of an ICBM coming in from our enemies is a lot lower than it was in the 80s when we were hiding under desks and whatnot. And certainly, you know, Mexico and Canada aren't lobbing missiles at us like, you know, you see coming across the border in Israel. But this, I think, even more so than a strategic military asset, this is going to be a global negotiation asset.
Yep.
This is definitely a kind of a game changer on the world stage, and pursuing it, I think, is going to have lots of benefits for America in the long run.
I completely agree. 6-time Emmy-winning actor George Wendt died on Tuesday. He was 76 years old. A lot of people forget that he reached fame as a comedian in Chicago before landing the role as Norm Peterson 11 seasons on Cheers.
Afternoon, everybody.
Norman? Hey, what's happening, Norm?
Oh, it's a dog-eat-dog world, Sammy, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear.
I mean, the writing was great on that show, but
his delivery.
Could anybody else have brought that to life the way that George Wendt did?
Oh, man. He's one of the top very solid characters in sitcoms over the years. That his name is going to live on. At least his character name and persona are going to live on for a while.
And I love Cheers is one of my favorite TV series of all time. I love that, of course. And he was one of the Bears guys on Saturday Night Live as well. You're from the Chicago area, Jerome. Did people really leaned into that? Because honestly, the more you got, especially, you know, in the certain parts of Chicago, people really freaking sound like that.
That is absolutely true. And also, I mean, mostly North Siders, to be fair, but that is one of the acceptable ways to say hello in Chicago. Just walk up to somebody and say, the Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears.
All right, the Cardinals and the Tigers are at 1 game apiece in their series. Deciding game is today at 12:15. Both MLB Network and FanDuel have that game.
Can't you hear the alarm?
Hey,
I'm here with Kathy Connor at Connor Roofing. Kathy, what makes Connor Roofing different?
Hey, Vic. I'm glad that you asked. I think that what really sets Connor Roofing apart is our relationship with our customers. It's very important to us to develop that trust with the homeowner. This is what has allowed us to serve our friends and our neighbors in the St. Louis area for 30 years. Whether we are doing a roof or a gutter repair or even a full replacement, you can count on Connor for quality service and workmanship.
Thanks, Kathy. To find out more, visit them at connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
As we pause to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom this Memorial Day, let us remember their courage and dedication.
Words cannot measure the depth of their devotion, the purity of their love, or the totality of their courage.
A reminder from local businesses who support our veterans. Freddy's Market in Webster Groves, Blue Sky Apparel and Promotions, Ray Ray's Kettle Corn, and from News Talk STL.
Hey, News Talk STL listeners, this is Levi, CEO of Reach Reproductive Health. There was a huge gap left when the biggest pregnancy center in St. Louis had to close their doors right after Amendment 3. But by God's grace and power, Reach has been able to step into that space. We have acquired Thrive centers and are continuing operations in greater St. Louis. I have a request for you. Would you pray and consider getting to know Reach more? We are here to see babies saved and families transformed by the power of Christ. Get to know us on our Reach community website, outreachforlife.org. That's outreachforlife.org.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Hi, this is Susie Moore. Check out my show, Red State Radio, Sunday afternoon at 4, right here on News Talk STL. Now it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, somebody was just asking, like if I have like a website for that I follow for the nutrition and diet stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, well, once you said 15% body fat, everybody said, "Excuse me, what?"
Yeah, I
tell me your secret, sir.
I don't have like a website that I follow for that. This has been me reading a bunch of stuff and putting it together. But how about this? Ryan and I, we're going to do a video, probably not next week because Ryan's on vacation, but then probably the week after that. But first of all, seriously, just go up to nutrition stuff.
Yeah,
Mexico Road.
Build your own.
You're probably going to, I mean, at some point you'll run into me. I literally do get my food from there, but I keep it very, very, very simple, but it's really tasty as well. I mean, you guys see what I eat every day here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good stuff. I mean, Jerome, half the time he's like, "Man, that smells good. What are you doing over there?"
Mike likes to torture me with his cooking.
Hey, it's not expensive either. It's funny because it comes in like the bison and the elk comes in this like block.
Yeah, okay.
And you're thinking, oh, well, that's not going to be much. I get 5 servings out of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Probably because they pack it in.
They pack it in tight, pretty tight.
But it's I get 5 servings. So I get, 2 different types, and then one's my lunch and one's my dinner, and I'm always having some kind of meat with my grains and vegetables and stuff. So I'll come up with something. Maybe I'll do like maybe a video or something saying, guys, here's how I do this. And it's really easy.
Are you going to end up with like a nutrition cooking channel
I
on
don't
YouTube
think
or
so.
something?
I don't think so. Now I follow a program on my workouts.
Yes.
And that's one of those that is like, it's set up to where if I wanted to, I could like put that out there, and you could, if you did it and do the whole marketing thing, which I'm not really into, but I could do that. But that works as well. All right.
Well, I wake up in the morning and
hello
to the sun.
No, this is
it would be hilarious if you did.
It would be funny. No, this is here are the weights, here's the bench, focus,
do the thing,
do it. And then I
Exactly.
just follow the written out program, and it's been working for me. Okay, so let's go into this the tougher question on this with Sarah Russell. She is the now, well, she's still technically, I think, emergency management commissioner.
She's on leave.
She's
right
on
now.
leave.
Now, it never said paid or unpaid.
Paid.
Though.
She's on paid leave.
It was paid leave, but
So
she's on her way out.
She's on her way out. They've started the search for a permanent new commissioner of emergency management for the city of St. Louis. And so if this were just a matter of she effed up bad,
right? She's incompetent.
She showed terrible judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it really was. We've already talked about that. The storm was on the way. It had been tracked for hours. We knew it was going to hit. We knew it was an increased risk level. We knew the tornadic activity was going to be possible. We talked about it on the morning show here.
Mm-hmm.
We shared, hey, beware. This is what could happen, that sort of thing. And then it turns out that she takes her entire team off-site to another building
for a seminar
or some kind of workshop.
Whatever that.
I don't know what the workshop was about.
Very, very curious about what it was about.
At some point, somebody's going to find out.
Yeah.
And so it could be something very much related to the job they do. Maybe it is, but it doesn't matter. There's a physical button to start the sirens, and she wasn't there at the time when we knew we were at risk, and therefore the warning sirens didn't go off.
All we needed was one person,
right,
watching the friggin' weather reports near the button.
Okay, so that's a behavioral and a mistake and human error that the mayor has acknowledged. Okay, so then there's the other aspect, and this is what I'm going to bring up, and I'll just go ahead and say it because I got a feeling there are people thinking it. And there are other people who are saying, Mike, don't say that.
Right.
Because this is the stuff that makes people mad. And boy, we don't want to run off the middle. Okay. Listen, we've had the culture war thing with the gender ideology stuff going on for years now. We have now started to reclaim this. We got mad when we found out that there are how to molest children books and how to be molested literally in the public school libraries.
That is not hyperbole.
That's not. I have seen them. A school board member sent me what was there. It's there. We've talked about, the sports stuff aspect of it, but I think those are things where people are like, well, that's not fair. That's not right.
Sure.
We've also had the realization, and you got to thank probably to some degree Jordan Peterson for this.
Oh yeah.
Who pointed out that, let me tell you what you're actually mad about. And that is the compelled speech.
That's right.
The forced speech.
You have to agree with my ideology.
Right.
And you have to speak it.
Because you control words, you eventually control thought. Okay, so all of that leads to, well, what's the harm? Just leave them alone. They're living their lives. You're not allowed to object. Sarah Russell, when you looked at the city's website, is a they, them.
Right.
Not just a matter of she's a woman who's gay. If that's the case,
well,
we're not having this discussion. I'm talking about something else right now.
Yeah.
I don't care. Then it's a matter of, I don't care if you're gay or not. Did you do the job? No, you're fired because of that.
Right.
But the question now is, she was appointed to this position in 2021 by Tashara Jones. So Tashara Jones, obviously one of the most radically leftist, embracing the gender ideology. And I don't think Kara Spencer is that far away from that belief system.
Oh,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah. She's pretty close, but
but Kara Spencer is handling this the right way. So what you have here, it should be obvious when you've got somebody who does not even understand basic biological differences, including in themselves, to where they say, you will not refer to me. I don't think of myself in as a female in her case. And this person is in a position to be the one who's supposed to exercise good judgment in the most crucial emergency time. My argument here is we should be honest with ourselves enough to say, listen, you're free to live your life the way you want, but this should be disqualifying evidence that you are mentally unfit to be in a judgment type of job. If you are that confused and that deranged, and I mean that in a denotative sense, that you can't understand these basic things, then you should not be somebody who's allowed to affect other people with your judgment.
Now, Jay Coz makes a really good point as well. Would we trust somebody with schizophrenia to be in a position of emergency response?
Exactly.
And to everybody out there that's like, well, I really care about this person and that's how they feel and I want them to feel. if a loved one came to you with anorexia and they said, I am convinced I am morbidly obese, it's like, no, you're starving yourself. Would you validate them? Said, you know what, you are right. You feel obese. You look obese. You must be obese, and let them starve themselves? No, you wouldn't do that. But why is it different when they want to start taking mind-altering medications and hormones and start lopping off parts of the body?
Because, and if you want to do that as an adult and you've just got that mental illness and you're happy with it and that's how you want to live, it's frankly none of my business.
Sure.
However, in this situation right here, what you have is somebody who says, trust me with the decisions that require good judgment based on reality.
Yeah.
And so somebody's going to be accusing me of being really cruel and bullying and the whatever. Bring on the protest. We're at Chaffee and Westline Industrial. It's fine. Just leave the construction guys alone. They're upgrading our building. That's fine. But at some point, we have to be in reality when they refuse to. And I go back to that social satire that Dave Chappelle said once, the L's, the G's, the B's, the T's are all in the car.
Right.
And the whole story that he does, which is
freaking hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's showing that you got the others who are saying, wait a minute, you're causing problems for us because you're so far out of reality. When things like this happen, I don't think the tornado happened because Sarah Russell is confused and that she's dysphoric.
Right.
Whatever
Obviously not related.
It's not her fault the tornado hit.
Right.
But it shows that she has bad judgment and doesn't connect with reality in at least one part of her life. So why was she appointed? Was this a check in the box? Was this a nod to the LGBT community? Was this a DEI type of hire? I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But we do know that the Jones administration went out of her way to use City Hall for social engineering and left-wing LGBT activism. And that's how you get people like this in office who are not qualified. Maybe she's got a degree in this. Maybe she's got years of experience. You say, well, isn't that enough? No, when you look at somebody and say, you are clearly outside of reality, you don't get to be the person we rely on for life-saving warnings.
To clarify, the issue is, we believe that the weird tea stuff, basically, is disqualifying. That you could have like you said, Mike, you could have these degrees, you could have certifications and whatnot, but if you are subscribed to an ideological position that necessarily denies reality, you are disqualified from being in a position of such power and responsibility that people's lives are at risk. I would not want a T in the fire department, in the police department, in any sort of emergency responses, as in driving an ambulance. None of it. No, I think it's disqualifying.
Yeah, at least for these type of positions.
Yes.
I need to go in and buy a pair of shoes. Do I, is the person there going to make a good suggestion? Maybe. I mean, but in this type of situation, the evidence is right there.
Right.
Their life is the evidence. So I think we should look at this and say, oh, okay, nobody wants to talk about it. It's all a matter of, well, that's separate. That's their private life. Why do you care about what they do? I don't care what she does in her private life. I really don't. But what I care about is saying we've got all these discussions about protocols, which are valid. We've got discussions about the fire department or CEMA running it. That's valid. We've got discussions about the office policies. That's valid. But nobody wants to also look at, you had somebody who demonstrates what should be considered debilitating mental illness in charge of whether or not people got a life-saving warning of a category EF3 tornado hitting the city, and they weren't warned with the imminent warning that comes with the sirens. So, I mean, I don't think it's Sarah Russell's fault that people got hurt or died, maybe, but there were people who weren't warned and maybe weren't able to get to safety because we trusted somebody who clearly shows with her life, she has bad judgment.
Yep.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A big shift in our local weather pattern, bringing dry and beautiful weather for the next few days. We really need this. Mostly sunny and cooler today. The high at 73, breezy at times, with west wind around 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30, though. Mostly clear tonight, down to 53 in St. Louis. Partly cloudy tomorrow, even a touch cooler, up to 69 for the high. 72 and dry Friday, but still looking at occasional rain for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. At your First Alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News commentary.
It's time for Rep. LaMonica McIver to face the consequences of her own actions. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
LaMonica McIver got her wish of becoming a political martyr for criminal illegal aliens. Acting U.S. Attorney Alina Habba announced she was charging the congresswoman with assaulting and impeding a law enforcement officer because that's exactly what she did. LaMonica and her cohorts claim they were there to conduct oversight of that ICE facility filled with violent criminal illegal aliens. But that's weird because I've never heard of someone who's trying to conduct oversight exclaim, "I touch whoever I want." There is clear video evidence of her roughing up ICE agents and doing so brazenly and aggressively. For her part, LaMonica McIver says the charges are politically motivated and she will never stop working for the people in her district and standing up for what's right. Apparently, the people in her district she's referring to are criminal, illegal alien, violent criminals. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, LaMonica. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
Tired of floors that don't stand up to real life? Hometown Floors has the solution. With 40 years of experience, they know floors. 100% made in the USA. Luxury vinyl, laminate carpet, pet-friendly, and built to last. Free in-home estimates, professional installation, and satisfaction guaranteed. Hometown Floors, making small business great again. Check us out at hometownfloorsonline.com.
Attention St. Charles, looking for a local spot that satisfies all your cravings? Mario's Donut Restaurant is your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches and omelets to delicious gyros, Mexican dishes, salads, and wraps, we got it all. And don't forget our famous donuts. They're so good, they'll make your eyes glaze over. Dine in or carry out, our friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit. Call 636-447-4515 or visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com.
This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion from the voices you know and trust. News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and NewsTalkSTL.com.
Hey, this is Todd Showalter. Join me for the Right Mind Show on Saturday at 5 as I try to put some fun back into this wacky radio station. You know, and speaking of wacky, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
A couple comments that have come in off that discussion regarding Sarah Russell being relieved of her duties as Commissioner of Emergency Management for the city. Childless Cat Lady for Trump says, and this is on Rumble, here's my thing. People in this category are generally preoccupied with gender issues, not doing their job. I think that's a really interesting point because for the true activist side of this, everything is a platform.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you looked at that with Richard Levine, who went on to try to change his name to Rachel Levine, who, by the way, gave a commencement. I'm not making this up over the last couple of days. Gave the commencement address at an all-women's college.
Wow.
And that's who they brought in. Because, you know, him being in that position as health, whatever his job was at HHS. That was a platform. Then you get the Brenton character, who was in like, part of the nuclear program, but that was all a platform. So to Childless Cat Lady for Trump's point there, that is valid. You may say, well, what about everybody? Well, everything else, most of us don't use our positions as platforms, for activism. I mean, if you get, for instance, who is it? One of the cabinet secretaries Donald Trump appointed and got confirmed is gay. I don't remember which one it is, but that's kind of the point. I don't remember which one it is because it's part of his personal life, but it's not his platform activism.
Yeah.
But in this case right here with the culture war going on, it's part of the platform activism, and the Tashara Jones administration embraced that activism and using the government for that sort of platform activism for the LGBT stuff and for the abortion stuff. Again, I don't think Kara Spencer is of a different mindset regarding the issues, but so far she's not using everything in government as the platform for those things. We'll see what happens once things calm down, but she's focusing on just delivering the city services so far.
Yeah. So from what I can tell on the Mayor Kara Spencer end of things is that she's taken responsibility for this, even though technically speaking, I wouldn't fully say she's responsible, but she has taken responsibility for it. She has implemented new changes and procedure changes. She's gone over and had an investigation into what actually happened. She did everything right that she could have done so far. Whereas Tashara Jones, who was the reason why this person was in the position in the first place, went on social media, did a fake nonprofit scam, or attempted a fake.
Her nonprofit, we're told, is not registered with anybody, so that's what we know.
She solicited funds for an emergency that was potentially made worse by somebody she appointed, and then she goes on social media and says, "Well, those sirens were working, the other day when I was still."
Okay, let's talk about that for a second.
But it's disgusting.
It really is, and it shows the disgusting lack of character of Tashara Jones. Tashara Jones, once the siren failed, she literally posted a picture of her like sipping a cup of tea and goes, "Well, the sirens were working on 314," and so she's gloating over a failure that endangered people's lives. And like you said, first of all, the person who failed was appointed by her. And secondly, sorry that you're still, angry and hurt over losing an election. Sit down, shut up, stay out of this. You're not relevant anymore. And so you're going to gloat when 5 people were killed and 38 people were hurt. And part of the thing that contributed to that is people are in North City in particular, because they've told me personally, have said, we didn't hear a siren. Now that whether or not that directly led to some being hurt or killed, I don't know, but it increased the danger. And it was somebody she appointed. So to gloat because you're still bitter about getting beat with 2/3 of the vote just shows you that the voters in St. Louis did the right thing in the city by kicking her to the curb. You're going to see her run for something else. But yeah, that was truly disgusting by Tashara Jones.
Absolutely classless behavior. I mean, acorns don't fall far from trees, and look at her dad, right?
Yeah, who literally was convicted of corruption. Okay, so let's see here. PMS 3105, fair or not, the buck stops with the mayor. Absolutely. She knows there's going to be litigation because of the death of the citizens. That's a pretty safe bet. That's for sure. And so what you've got with all of this is trying to divorce ourselves from the activism side versus what are the basic services, and all that their job was at that moment in time was press the button. That was it. Press the button. And Tashara Jones was also reacting to, it turns out there's a backup button that's in the fire department buildings.
Oh, yeah.
And they went to test that and it did not work.
Which is concerning.
So they're working on fixing all of that. But we also know that the main one did work. It just wasn't used.
And it just feels really like nobody's really been in control of the city besides looting and stealing our funds and embezzling and neglecting and going on social media, little look at me, ha kind of tours. this is a very sobering moment, I have to say. As somebody that's not originally from St. Louis, I've worked in St. Louis since I've moved here. I've lived in St. Louis since I've moved here.
And you've been here for some years.
Yeah, I've been here since, about August 2022. So it's not like, I came in last week and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? But the idea of, I was seeing how bad the roads were. I've been seeing how bad the crimes got, and I can see all this stuff, and to sit there and realize even our emergency systems are not properly, like, they're not being at least regularly checked. You would think, and again, I've never had to be the button pusher, so maybe I'm not qualified to speak, but I would imagine if with all the tests that we do to make sure our systems are even working, that we would test the backup systems, because let's say if somebody had been there to press the button, but the tornado, took a different course, or something happened where now they're trapped in the building and they can't actually hit the main button. Well, then it could have been even worse.
Right. So now the fire department's going to be in charge. So essentially the city emergency management agency is out of the loop on that. Well, this is one of the few things they actually do. So at some point, St. Louis is going to have to ask the question, do we need this agency in the city? And if so, what is it that they're going to do and be responsible for? And if not, then where do those very few duties actually go? Because they're small, there's a small number of duties, but in the moments of crisis or potential crisis, they're crucial. I mean, you got people who basically train and re-up education and work year-round, hoping that we never actually have to put that into place. I mean, the ideal is that the emergency management agency people do nothing but train and prepare, and we never actually have to call them. That's the perfect outcome. But the reality is that we are going to have to call them. And so the few times we do, they can't be off doing a freaking workshop.
Now, I've been trying to, me, I like to play the devil's advocate as much as possible. I've been trying to be generous with some of this, but PMS makes a great point. There are no excuses. As a first responder, he gets updates on weather from federal, state, local agencies nonstop throughout the day. And as conditions change, and we were even talking about, like, it looks like there's going to be a big storm coming later in the day. I believe you were even talking about, like, old man baseball being potentially rained out and how that might affect it. So it's not like they were just suddenly caught off guard in the middle of this meeting that it took place. They could have totally rescheduled the thing. And so, like we see with the people that want to assault the ICE officers, when are we going to start seeing criminal negligence charges, some sort of legal, you are now going to have this on your record, and we are going to start going from to a, like, let me see your wrist, I got a ruler right here.
Put your hands behind your back.
Like, when do we start to see that? Because as voters, I'm sure I can't go make a citizen's arrest on these people, but somebody within our administration somewhere has to be able to say, look, this is affecting us. We've had enough of this negligence. We've had enough of this theatrics and pandering. We need to actually have a functional country, a city, a county, whatever you want to call it.
So this goes back to that original question we were talking about, is you can talk about the protocols. And Sarah Russell wrote the protocols that were confusing everybody. So there are two elements. Was she just not good at her job? I don't know. I mean, she's been there since 2021, and this is the first time any of us have ever heard of her. But the other part of this is the evidence was right there that this is not somebody that you should trust with judgment-based decisions. And that's the danger of saying, well, normalize this. So the reaction to this abnormal and mentally ill behavior, which has become a social contagion, like few that we've seen, has been, instead of let's deal with the cognitive issues and the moral issues and the emotional issues and the sexual dysfunctions, instead of saying we're going to deal with these problems and help these people, we're going to try to normalize the dysfunction and demand everybody adapt to it.
And if you don't agree with a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old making permanent changes to their body, you're a bad person.
Right. And that's just to show you how extremist it is. What we learned about what's happening at, for instance, or what was happening at SLU's, children's so-called transgender clinic should have been, enough for us to say, and that's it, we're done. We're never going to do that again. But we also forget that the people who are exhibiting this level of dysfunction and mental illness, they do other things, and you don't compartmentalize when somebody is in that condition mentally and emotionally. All right. That's my say for today. Agree, disagree. Let me know in the comments. We can talk. I think we might have to bring Ryan back at some point. We had a lot of comments on that. And somebody was asking, like, what's the link to where I do like my nutrition and stuff. And I don't have one, but I can tell you what I've learned over the years, and I am not certified in anything, but I can tell you what's working for me. and then get your thoughts on that as well, because a lot of people there was quite a discussion going on.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
A cross between Socrates and Dirty Harry.
On News Talk STL.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here. Exciting things are happening at the Hideout in High Ridge, famous for the Sunset Patio, 4 big screen TVs, live music and events, and of course, the wings. The Hideout now has a brand new menu featuring handcrafted burgers and new items like their signature sunset dip and Dave's Chili. And now a second location, the Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course in High Ridge, featuring great event space. You can stop by for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout and the new Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course. We'll see you there.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
The one and only Karen Catalina.
That's not always a bad thing, not to be a mensch.
Oh.
Sometimes you're a little bit of a rabble-rouser. It depends.
Yeah,
you are a mensch. You're a mensch, but, you know.
I think you can be.
Because he's a mensch.
Because I'm a mensch, okay?
You know, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. It depends.
All right.
So a mensch is a gentleman, to be a gentleman.
That's me, then. Come on.
Yeah, that's him, Karen.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hi, Sean Long from STL Fenceworks. A new fence or deck is an investment in your home and your lifestyle. But how do you ensure that you're getting the most out of that investment? At STL Fenceworks, we know the key is satisfaction. Satisfaction means getting a fence or deck that not only meets your needs, but exceeds your expectations. Satisfaction means working with a team that cares about your project as much as you do. Satisfaction means having confidence in the quality of your new fence or deck, knowing that it was built with the best of materials and workmanship. STL Fenceworks, your satisfaction is our passion. And for me, satisfaction is knowing that providing for your family is how I provide for mine. Visit STLFenceworks.com and experience the satisfaction in making your backyard dreams into a reality.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Mark Lauder, the co-host of Wake Up America on Newsmax, is thankfully pushing back his bedtime so he can speak with us at 5:20 p.m.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning people.
Okay, we really opened up a great discussion when Ryan from Nutrition Stop was in just a little bit ago. Because when you've got the whole, RFK was like doing battle with some of the senators at a hearing this week, and it got really heated and everything. And there's a lot of controversy around RFK Jr. But I'm not a fan of RFK Jr. I don't like his authoritarianism. But one of the things I'm going to completely concede is that his focus on look at what you're eating, and now the policy prescriptions on that is what I disagree with on him. But I completely agree about saying we need food that's actually food. Now a lot of the food over the last many decades that's been, developed, and processed, it's done obviously for expediency and to lower the cost and all those things. A lot of the stuff that's in the foods that maybe we don't like, it preserves it. I mean, we don't want to go grocery shopping 3 or 4 times a week because most of the food on the shelves would go bad, without some of the things that we're now looking at. So I'm not saying they need to be in there, but I'm saying is that if we're going to change the system, then we need to know what we're going to change. Well, the natural places like Ryan's, and there are other stores out there like that, but they're just particularly good at what they do. It's out there as a resource. So I wonder if we shouldn't come back to some of these discussions regularly. I mean, we got the policy, we got the politics, but what about, okay, but you don't have to wait for government to change the rules on other people to do what you want to do. I mean, so if you're one who says, I don't want dyes in my food, I don't want preservatives in my food, I don't want this type of seed oil in my food, great. Now you can go get that.
Mhm.
You don't have to wait for the government to change the rules to do it for yourself. And so that's what I like about, the market aspect of this. And this is one of the areas I disagree with, with some others, but it's a great debate. It's a good discussion. I think we should be having it. So somebody was asking earlier, they're like, okay, can I post what was it? The website that
Yeah, like a website or something that basically details how you've developed your personal diet.
Okay, so I don't have a website to it. I basically learned and read and trial and error. But it's funny because Ryan's here making his living on this for decades, doing the natural, not just food but products, everything. And it took me decades of getting it wrong before I figured out there really is something to this natural thing.
Mhm.
Listen, I'm gonna go have a beer with the guys, and I'm gonna go have a buffalo wing with the guys every once in a while. It's just, it's gonna happen. That's not the issue. But my mainstay of my food, and have a treat every once in a while. It's fine.
You gotta.
But I just went back to basics because it was funny, Ryan. I'm like, look at my lunch, like I'm in third grade or whatever, and it was the bison meat that I got from his store. It was the all natural brown rice that I got from his store, and then a bunch of vegetables that I got, and I just kind of mixed in, the black beans and the peppers and I got a fresh mushroom at his store as well that added a lot to it. So I just took that natural stuff, and it really tastes good, but it means that I do need to make my food,
Mhm.
and that's one of the things is the convenience. We say, how do we get all these preservatives? How do we get all this stuff in there? Well, because we wanted convenience. We decided that our time doing other things was more valuable than our time preparing healthy food and real food.
Now, there is something that he mentioned regarding allergies in the liver that
Yeah.
goes into what you're saying about clean eating is, when people or if it was a case that most of our food was clean eating, and then occasionally we had something that had a preservative or something in there, our body does a pretty good job of saying, okay, well, this stuff shouldn't be in our body. Let's get rid of it. The issue is that you only have so many mechanisms to actually detox.
Mhm.
So when you're not eating clean very often, and most of our stuff is preservative, it builds up into the system, and then you have it's basically a traffic jam. You have to wait until you can open some new lanes and take the time for it to decongest before you're actually able to see the benefits. So it's never too late, as your evidence for, it's never too late to start clean eating. But at the same time, to your point about not wanting the government to tell you what you can and can't eat, if we had more autonomy when it comes to our personal decision-making skills to look it up, and I agree with a lot of our stream chat, they use a lot of misleading terms or non-layman terms to hide the fact of like, oh, this is not stuff I would want in my food.
Yeah.
But if we could take more self-control over that, then it wouldn't matter as much what they put in the food. We would be able to clear it out.
It's not a website, but let me tell you what happens usually on Sundays. Of course, we've got a holiday coming up, so this will probably happen on Monday this week, is that I get this mini assembly line of preparing my food. So I've got a rice cooker, and I'm making, whether it's quinoa or, brown rice or jasmine or whatever it is going to be. And then I've also got on the stove, I really like sweet potatoes, but I don't do anything to them other than boil them. So I dice them up like, really thin, and I boil them. And then when it comes to the actual protein, when it comes to the bison or the elk or the chicken or whatever you get, from wherever you go. I mean, I get mine from Nutrition Stop. I simply brown it, and then I put in the other real foods, the black beans, that boiled sweet potatoes. I dice up and chop up peppers, and so I put all these whole real foods in there, and then I just sort of stir it all in together, and then put it over the grain, and then on the other side of my plate is just a bunch of vegetables. And that's what I've gone to. It's really simple. You don't have to do anything special. You just got to be able, to take a little bit of time. And then I make all of my lunches and all of my dinners. And then I'm good to go. And it has worked for me. And the program, like my exercise program, I do follow a prescribed program. If somebody wants to know what that is, send me an email and I can, tell you what it is, because it's one of the big names out there. So I'm not going to give them free advertising over the radio. But if you're that curious about it, then just email me, Mike at NewsTalkSTL.com, and I'll tell you what I use.
Well, when you first started showing me your cooking stuff, and because again, I have to smell this while I'm working. I'm like, oh my God, why did I not pack anything like this today? Because it smells so good. I was trying to pressure you to get a cookbook, and now all it sounds like you're doing is making excuses not to put out a Mike Ferguson approved cookbook.
Yeah, I mean, I know how to make like 10 things. It would be a very small, but maybe I'll do like a video or something.
Well, they're only 7 days to a week, 10.
Yeah.
The overlap of that, you'll have a new dish every few
Now,
days.
here's the other thing. I was talking to my mom over the weekend. I gave her a call, and she said, because she was commenting on, the way my health has improved in recent, months and years. And she goes, I just don't get you guys. She goes, you can eat the same thing every day. Well, I can, maybe that is a dude thing. I don't know. My wife has mentioned that. She goes, I just can't eat the same thing every day. Well, I've got multiple things. I have 2 things that I go back and forth between, but it's okay with me because it still tastes good. And I switch it up from week to week. But she's like, I just couldn't do that. I'm like, well, why not? I mean, over the weekend, normally I have ball games. I won't this weekend because of the holiday. But a lot of times after we go to a game, it's like, okay, let's go to the sports bar, and I'll go get a buffalo chicken wrap or whatever. You can do that every once in a while. It's not the end of the world. We don't have to be that rigid where we stop living life. But if we do this right, it's just enhancing my life personally. And that's why I love the fact that Nutrition Stop came on board with us, because we've got this audience that stereotypically, has not been engaged by this industry, not engaged by the natural foods folks, because they're kind of, they were looked at unfairly as like, well, you're just a bunch of hippie leftists, and they're not. I mean, I don't know.
A lot of this stuff's science backed.
I have no idea what Ryan's politics are. No clue. Don't care. He's a good guy who is making a living helping people be healthier. That's all I care. And so we've got those options out there, and his team, Laura and some of the others, they just really know their stuff. And so just check them out. Once again, Nutrition Stop, just go, it's just a little bit west of Cave Springs Road on Mexico Road in that shopping center right there on the south side of Mexico. So check it out. Good stuff.
Attention golf enthusiasts. Berry Hill, your favorite 9-hole public golf course, is now